Welcome to day 3 of the week. It's a Wednesday, a wonderful one as well, and we're glad to come into your homes and onto your gadgets, wherever you are connecting with us. Good morning to you. Thank you for making time on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, at your service. Now, coming up shortly, the news followed by the news review, and guess who joins us? Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He is a political scientist and director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. And then from there, we'll bring you sports courtesy of Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. And then we get into our big stories. Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, says setting up the office of the Special Prosecutor was an act in futility and will not achieve any results. That's what he's saying. Again, on our chopping board as we engage members of Parliament, MPs are not in agreement over what the appropriate punishment is for persons who engage in LGBTQI sex, as the House continues the consideration of that controversial bill. We'll bring you details of that as we engage our guests this morning. Al-Hassan Suine is Member of Parliament for Tamale North. Collins Adomako Mensah is Member of Parliament Ifija Kwabre North. We have them joining that conversation. But also on the show, we'll be talking about pesticide risk reduction. There's a campaign on that. We'll bring you details of that later on the show. Then from there, we'll be sharing with you a campaign that aims to promote a healthy and nutritious lifestyle through baking with soya flour. Have you ever considered that? Well, we'll be giving you the ins and outs of that. Again, some medical doctors are on an outreach in Ghana to correct spinal defects. They are working with the Focus Orthopedic Hospital in Pangtang. We'll tell you a lot more about what they are doing and what this means for the generality of the population. Finally, courtesy of EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank, will bring you our latest installment of AM Business. Now, players within the car rental business are calling on government and the tourism ministry to support them to expand their operations. How do they do that? Well, all of that lined up for you this morning on the AM show. You want to stay with us as we share our thoughts with you. We'll be right back with the news. Thank you for staying for the news. Let's get into our first story now. And Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, says the creation of the Office of the Special Prosecutor was an act in futility and would truly not achieve any results. He's also stressed that there was no way the creation of that office could deal with the canker of corruption. The minority in Parliament also insists there's a plot to frustrate the Special Prosecutor, Kisia Jabing, until he resigns. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante now reports.
Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin stirred controversy in the House today when he said the Special Prosecutor's creation was an act in futility which will not achieve anything really, just as he has spoken of at the time this bill was passed. This was at a time when the Special Prosecutor was not a matter of discussion on the floor, but the anti-LGBTQ bill was the subject of conversation on the floor. And so it was a bit out of the blue that the Speaker of Parliament will hit that hard at the institution of the Special Prosecutor. But later on in the day, when the Special Prosecutor's estimate in the 2024 budget was considered, we heard from the minority spokesperson on Constitutional and Legal Affairs, Bernard Ahiafo, who argued that it appeared this government is seeking to frustrate Kisia Jabing until he resigns.
For the law you passed on the establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, I did tell you that it was an act in futility. You were not going to achieve anything from that, but you went ahead to pass it. I disagreed with you, but I was alone. Well, I'm very clear in my mind that that authority is embedded in the powers of the Attorney General.
All institutions must come together to support the office of the Special Prosecutor. I believe strongly because the office of the Special Prosecutor is not getting the institutional support, he had to do a press conference conference to say that his Ankwa Numa Odinikra Abo Afori. His life. If you listen to him, you can come to a conclusion that this is a statement made out of frustration. Mr. Speaker, do we want a young man, 43 years, removed from the lecture theater and the courtroom and appointed as a special prosecutor to also resign as a result of frustration? I believe that the first special prosecutor that we have appointed similarly resigned, and after resignation, he indicated that the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, is a mother serpent for corruption. Corruption affects everybody. Therefore, the office of the Special Prosecutor needed all institutions to support him in order to perform his functions creditably.
But Communications Minister Eslo Usu argued that simply because the Special Prosecutor was not getting the exact amount that was budgeted for and that there were low release of funds would not necessarily mean that the government was seeking to frustrate the work of the Special Prosecutor.
As long-standing members of this House, I'm sure we are all aware of the annual budget ritual where all ministries, departments, and agencies decry the fact that despite their budget needs, almost invariably, they never get sufficient resources to enable them prosecute their mandate.
The House has approved 149 million Ghana cedis for the Special Prosecutor to spend in 2024. Of course, it does not necessarily mean that Kissie Jabin and his staff will be able to draw on all 149 million by the end of 2024. But that is the amount Parliament has approved for the Special Prosecutor to spend. And Parliament says it believes this will equip the Special Prosecutor to continue its recruitment drive and prosecute as many corruption cases as possible. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
In our next story, some communities in the Pro East district of the Bono East region are recording increasing cases of typhoid fever following the contamination of drinking sources by floods. Data at the District Health Directorate shows about 200 recorded cases. A majority of the cases were recorded in the Parambo and Sawaba communities. District Director of Health, Ramzeya Ahmed, says community sensitization is being enhanced to deal with the cases. Nanaya Ojima has more in this report.
About 12 communities in the Pro East area were flooded after the Volta Lake and Pro River overflowed their banks due to excessive rainfall. The flood left many families displaced. Over 120 homes were affected. Waste from the communities submerged were washed into the water bodies, which are the main sources of drinking water in the communities. Families who rely on these sources for drinking water share their experience.
The polluted water bodies are only source of drinking water. We continue to use it for domestic purposes. My daughter had to undergo surgery when she contracted the illness. My daughter wasn't the only one affected.
Hospital now, health center.
When we report to the health center, we are referred to the hospital for treatment. Many of our people had to undergo surgeries. When we went to the hospital, all children in the ward were from our community.
Prambo is among communities largely affected by the outbreak. Residents have grappled with insanitary conditions and access to potable drinking water. Nurse manager of Prambo Clinic, Nash Bequin, who is alarmed by the situation, wants the community to take action to improve sanitation and water sourcing.
So we alerted the disease control officers to do their investigations. Then we realized that it's the free range that they are doing because there are no toilet facility in major homes. Majority of homes in Prambo sub-district. So when the flood came, our water bodies were infected, causing the outbreak of enteric fever in the sub-districts. The typhoid cases that we recorded, children under 5 were most affected, and women. So let's see, if we do it like percentage-wise, like children would be like 45, and the adult and female will be 35, and the rest is for the men. Yes.
The communities, despite the challenge identified, continue to drink from contaminated sources. Already, health authorities have intensified sensitization in affected communities, including education on treatment of water for consumption. District Health Director Ramzia Ahmed explains.
We went to Sawaba area, did our investigations, and we were able to meet the opinion leaders and advise them on the causes of the disease, the prevention of the disease, and early reporting for treatment. And so since we did that, the cases are coming down. We are monitoring the cases. For week 48 of the year, we recorded only 3 cases. So it means that the cases are coming down, and the people are also adhering to our advice on the management of the outbreak.
Though the situation is being stabilized, health authorities are demanding measures to improve health situation in the area. For Joy News, Nana Ojima reporting.
Now, health authorities at the Tichiman Holy Family Hospital are worried about the increase in new HIV cases in the area. HIV coordinator for Tichiman, Godfred Amankwa, says his outfit will elevate its education of the citizens on the need to know their HIV status. Anas Habit has more.
As countries across the globe are marking the World AIDS Day, health authorities here at the Tichiman Holy Family Hospital are expressing worry at the increasing number of new cases recorded at the facility. The situation, according to the facility's HIV coordinator, Godfred Amankwa, is largely as a result of the decline in awareness creation across the area. He made this remark during an awareness creation march along the principal streets of Tichiman.
Every 1st December is World HIV Day. Unfortunately, this year coincided with Farmers Day, so we decided to reschedule to today to celebrate World HIV Day, to create awareness about HIV and for people to encourage people to do the HIV testing. Once you test positive, there's more life. If you are fortunate and you are negative, we'll educate you on how to keep negative, and life goes on.
Godfred Amankwa disclosed that the Holy Family Hospital has recorded a total of 265 new HIV cases between January and October this year, an increase of 65 of the number recorded within the same period last year.
So HIV in Tichiman is every year we have an increased number of cases. As at October 2023, from January up to date, from Holy Family Hospital, we have 85 new cases for men, 147 for females, and 35 for pregnant women. So total from January up to October 2023, we have 265 new cases of HIV only in Holy Family, meaning the case keeps on rising. And that is for Holy Family. When you compare other facilities in municipality, we are almost getting to 500.
Dr. Asanima Asari is a project officer for Ghana West Africa program to combat AIDS and STIs in charge of Tichiman and Nkranza. She charged all to be part of the fight against HIV/AIDS and admonished the masses to say no to stigma.
The fight against AIDS is not a one-man's business. It's a business for us all. You don't have to sit in your house thinking that just because you don't have the virus, you cannot get it. It's just at your doorstep. The earlier we start reducing how we stigmatize and point fingers at people, the better for all of us. Because what it does is that it encourages other people to come and test.
Now, handlers of the National Malaria Elimination Program are asking for increased private sector support to fund malaria elimination in the country. Deputy Programs Manager Dr. Nanaya Opepra, who spoke at the Zero Malaria Business Leadership Initiative stakeholders meeting on the fight against malaria in Ghana, indicated Ghana had made progress over the years in the reduction of mortality from 428 in 2018 to 151 in 2022. He indicated that the private sector support was crucial in achieving the nation's target of reducing mortality by 90% in 2028 and reducing malaria cases by 50% using 2022 as a baseline.
Malaria is both endemic and perennial throughout Ghana, putting the entire population at risk. It also accounts for 30% of all OPD cases in Ghana, while 25% of all hospital admissions are due to malaria. Like most malaria endemic countries, one of the major obstacles to eliminating the diseases in Ghana is the significant funding gap for the full implementation of the National Malaria Elimination Program's National Strategic Plan. Deputy Programs Manager Dr. Nanaya Opepra says the private sector's support is key to achieving these goals.
I think this morning's meeting has been very important because over the years we have made progress in the fight against malaria. We have seen parasite prevalence reduced from around 28% in 2011 to 8.6 in 2022. We have seen mortalities reduced from in the thousands about a decade ago to around 151 last year. And all this has been with limited resource. So we have what we can use to eliminate malaria, but we don't have enough resources. We have just roughly had about 50% of what we needed over the years. And that is why we are very convinced that if you're able to get all the needed resources, we should be able to eliminate malaria from Ghana. And that is why we engaged the private sector this morning. We are hopeful that with this engagement, we can have more resources to win the fight against malaria.
The Zero Malaria Business Leadership Initiative is organized by EcoBank in collaboration with Speak Up Africa and the National Malaria Elimination Program. It seeks to reinforce domestic resource mobilization through private sector engagement for malaria elimination in Ghana. It also aims at appealing to the private sector to commit to contributing to the fight. Dr. Daniel Kasati is head of marketing at EcoBank.
We are all trying to close up the funding gap, between what the situation is now and the desired amount of money required to be able to eliminate malaria. And we have made the point that it is not possible for the public sector or government alone to do this. That is why there is the need for us to take the lead as a bank in galvanizing support from the private sector. We started with a seed fund of 120,000 USD, and that is what we are working with. It is our expectation. This is supposed to be a matching fund. So if any company brings in any amount, we match the same equivalent amount and then disperse into the area of interest. There is no country around the globe where the public sector or government was able to single-handedly eliminate malaria. Wherever malaria has been eliminated, it's been a collaboration between the public sector and the private sector. And we are a leading bank in this country. So once this idea was brought to our notice, we took it on board and said we will lead in this drive to galvanize support from the private sector because it is critical.
The high
Now, kingmakers in Drapa have unanimously endorsed the regent of Drapa, Na Justice Donglabong Dina, as successor to the late Na Ansole Ghana II. This makes him the 5th chief of Drapa in over 100 years. Justice Dina pledged to rebuild the iconic Drapana's Palace, which used to be a great tourism site, but has now almost turned into rubble. Rafiq Salam reports.
It was crystal clear, and the writing was on the wall that Na Justice Donglabong Dina was going to be the successor to the late Na Ghana Ansole II otherwise known in private life as Peter Tengenaban Namfuri. A chick that will grow into a rooster is already spotted the very day it hatches. 41-year-old Justice Donlabon Dina is a teacher by profession and is in charge of culture and language studies at the Jiriba Municipal Office of the Ghana Education Service. He learned the ropes and rudiments of the tradition and culture of the people, working as a secretary to the late Ghana Ansole II. He has no difficulty fitting into the role because his father, Tankoba, served in the same portfolio to the late Bakwanji Nayelpui II. Almost 6 months after the burial of the late Ansole Ghana II, processes to perform his final funeral rites before a new chief is chosen kick-started. The rites were laced with 8 other persons from the family who during the course of the year had passed on. Anthony Jordan Batier, a tendana from Wiri, explained further.
If you are a farmer, you farm. When you are no more, we have to produce a sheep according to your farming listen. And then we add the millet. It is the millet that we are going to give to the women. Those husbands who that are of late, they will now go and turn it into malt or pitomate and then bring it the 2 weeks that we are put today. Every year, that is what we do. Okay. But it's only this year that have coincided with the passing on of the chief. Okay. So we have also added his thing.
The choreographed spectacle and meticulous performance of the final funeral rites of the 9 persons lasted for almost 7 hours. After that, the announcement that many had waited with bated breath to hear in the municipality and beyond, an announcement that will shape the future of Jiriba municipality and its people. The 7 recognized kingmakers were unanimous in their decision and amplified by Anthony Jordan Batier, who serves as one of their spokespersons.
We have already come out with a successor, who is now Justice Donlabon Dina. And I think a date has been given by the elders as 30th of December 2023.
Now Justice Donlabon Dina sat few meters away from where the announcement was made. He winked a smile, shook his head with his fists held to each other, probably thinking about the responsibility that has just been placed on him.
I am humbled by the decision of the Tendamba, just like I was humbled when my elder brother, Na Ansole Ghana II, appointed or nominated me as his personal secretary. So it is today that the Tendamba, after this ritual, finds it prudent to nominate me as a successor.
Before his outdooring, he already had his eyes fixed on reconstructing the iconic one-story Jebana's Palace, which has now almost turned into rubble.
It's one thing that I so much wish that in the nearest future it will be rebuilt and we will go back to our old glory. I'm saying this because if you happen to have visited the old palace, you will see a new edifice there, an auditorium block. It took my intervention and lobbying to get it erected. It took us just 8 months, so I won't be surprised if it will take us less than that to build the palace.
Now Justice Donlabon Dina is expected to be coronated on December 30. Reporting for Dway News, Rafik Salam, Jiriba.
On that note of chieftaincy, we cap off the news. But stay with us. The news review is up next with Dr. Kwame Asasanti. You stayed with us, and we're grateful. This is the AM show. It's time now for the news review. Right before I introduce my guest, let me just let you know that Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, they say, well, day for you. If you're a man, you've never checked your prostate, or it's been a while since you checked it, especially if you've hit your 40s, this is ample opportunity to get screened for free. You won't pay anything. If you're a woman, you don't know what your fertility status is. Maybe you've never given birth. Maybe you've given birth. Fertility is something that goes with you throughout your life. It could change at any point. So do you know your status currently? That is why I'm proffering that you head to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic and get yourself checked. All you need to do is get to know what your status is. That's it. Because if you don't know, you never know what could be happening as far as these are concerned. Now, here's where you can locate Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Here in Accra, they're at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. Then there's Kumasi, the Kumasi branch, Kronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takrady, they can be located at Anaji Estate. Then there's Tema Community 22. There's Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Nzima. If you'd like to call them, these are the numbers on which to reach them. 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease, which is the start of the news review. My guest this morning, as we usually do on a Wednesday, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He's my former lecturer. He's a political scientist, also, well, director of the Center for European Studies. He joins us this morning as we have this discussion. Doc, good morning. I hope you're well.
Good morning, sir. I'm very well.
It's good to have you join the conversation. There's been a lot going on, and some of them are in the papers that we are going to be getting into. But even as we approach the district level elections, local government or local governance elections, do you have any take on what is happening? Yesterday, I had an interaction with a presiding member, together with one Mr. Ejako, who has followed the system for a long time. You would notice that since the 1988-89 period, when over 50% of Ghanaians went to vote in the district assembly elections, it's been dwindling. There's only one period within that all the way till 2023 where, well, at least 2023 can't be counted yet, but up to 2019 where there was an uptick where it went up to 40-something. Since that time, it's been 30-something. The last one, about 20-something percent. That's the least figure we've got, just under 30%. So there's been a lot of apathy. Some with whom I had the discussion said, we should make it political because it's political anyway. And that is the way to go. So if it's MPP, NDC, it is clear, and then we know the way forward. That will deepen development at the local level. What is your quick take on that? Hello, Doc. Okay, we may have lost Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, but that's a question I'm throwing to you as well out there, if you're watching me this morning. Yes, I had the conversation yesterday, but what do you think? The CDD, I remember, conducted some research on this in the past, coming out with quite a number of figures. Those who felt, you know what, let's just go political because it's political anyway. And those who also said, no, this is not the way to go. What is your take? Share with us on social media, on Facebook. Let's know what your thinking is on this matter. We'll try to reconnect with Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. In the interim, let me just let you know which papers I have this morning. The Daily Graphic, the Ghanaian Times, the Finder, the Daily Guide. I also have the Ghanaian Publisher, all of these papers with me. Doc, can you hear me now? All right. So let me try to get into the first paper, the Daily Graphic, like I usually would start with. UPSA honors First Lady Justices Bamford Addo and Theodora Wood. There's also leveraged local capital for lithium and other minerals. That's according to Kwame Pianim. There's a lot of conversation on this. Fui Chikata, that former head as well of the Minerals Commission, the first head of the Minerals Commission, among others, sharing their thoughts on it. Second coming of Nkrumah, 120 Pan-African cast enacts vintage play. That story on page 13. Ministry targets 50% turnout in district level election. And tax evasion case, Keofori CEO exonerated. On the back page, PURC integrates database with utility companies. And then displaced victims at Tefle appeal for safe drinking water. I'll start from there. Displaced persons at Tefle near Sogakope in the Central Tone district in the Volta region have appealed for the supply of safe drinking water for the community following the contamination of the water sources as a result of the flooding occasioned by the spillage of the Akosombo Dam. The residents who presently make their water safe for use, I think Daily Graphic editor, you should be using currently, not presently. There's a different meaning to the word. The residents who currently make their water safe for use by boiling fear a possible outbreak of waterborne diseases if they continue using the contaminated water. The situation is dire as there are currently 389 displaced victims, as the story says, of which 208 are women, 50 are children, with 28 being girls, 140 are men, and 12 are persons with disabilities. So once more, there is that call, and we are using this platform to reach out to you, if you're minded to do so. Big Corp in Ghana, people of goodwill who can help bring some relief, mitigate the suffering of these brothers and sisters of ours. Now, the PRC integrates database with utility companies, and the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission has integrated its database with utility companies to enhance service delivery. It was made possible through an integrated digital platform dubbed Database Management System Phase 2. It will offer visualization for real-time information and data exchange between the PRC, utilities, consumers, and other sector stakeholders. So those are the two stories on the back page. But let me get to the other stories, and when we get Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, we can get his reactions to them. After investigations conducted for over 2 years by the Economic and Organized Crime Office with the benefit of advice from the Office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, the Chief Executive Officer of Keofori Limited and Kwejo Boakye Enterprise has been exonerated of any wrongdoing in a suspected tax evasion and money laundering case. In her advice on behalf of the Attorney General, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Yvonne Atakra Obuobisa, recommended the discontinuation of the case against Frank Kwejofori, the CEO of Keofori Limited, who is also a 10% shareholder of Universal Steel Company Limited, a company at the center of tax evasion claims. The quote is, "No evidence has been gathered to substantiate these claims. Mere suspicions are not enough to bring any charges against them," the AG's advice stated. Doc, can you hear me now? Dr. Asah-Asante, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Great, great, great. So I've shared a story about...
Yes, I can hear you.
Right. I've shared a story about displaced victims at Tefle appealing for safe drinking water. You know what happened in that community, the flooding. It's contaminated their water sources, and now they're appealing for water. Water is life, of course, and we cannot do without it. There's also this story, a bit of an outlier of a story, but it has been in the fray for some 2 years in terms of a tax evasion case brought against Keofori, the CEO of Keofori Limited. But let me quickly get into the story to add to the safe drinking water case, and then we can look at other dynamics. I'll do pages 13 and 16 and then take your quick reactions. Let me just get there. Okay, so page 13, here we are. An economist, Kwame Pianim, has called for deliberate efforts to mobilize capital and build the capacity of the nation's human resources to actively or effectively harness and add value to its mineral resources. He explained that the country was blessed with the recent discovery of lithium, which it had to take advantage of to reap maximal benefits by refining the natural resource. Quoting him, he says, "Fortunately, Ghana has lithium, cobalt, manganese, carbide that most factories use. We also have the people, that is a human resource. For all these concessions of lithium, let us improve it and add value." So I was just mentioning a short while ago that the likes of Wichikata, among others, and including the very first head of the Minerals Commission, At some point, they had thrown their weight behind the lithium deal. Then they withdrew their support, saying that they were not abreast of all the different cogs in the wheel of that. We've had former Chief Justice Ifeanyi Kufu condemn it. But on the other hand, we've had the Member of Parliament for Pru East, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, show some support, lend some support to it. We've had the likes of Sam Jonah also say it is a pretty good deal. Only yesterday, I heard that the Christian Council, together with the Muslim grouping as well, represented by Sheikh, had actually said that no, look, and if we can't get the best of deals for it, let's leave the lithium in the ground. What is your take on this all-important matter? And let me just add, I also have noted that the U.S., I think somewhere in California, they've found the largest possible deposit. I think it's worth some many billions of dollars of same in their country, and they are preserving it. No one has spoken about mining it. What do you think about that entire development, the lithium issue? It's unfortunate this morning. It appears the connections are not too... Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Doc.
Good morning, Ruben. And then you interesting.
All right, Doc. Maybe
I think it's an interesting development that we have had a lot of.
All right. So what we're going to do, Doc, maybe we'll just try to reach you via the phone line. Hopefully, that will be stable enough for you to share your thoughts, because this patchiness, I'm sure everyone wants to listen to what you have to say on it, but unfortunately, the connections are not aiding us do that. So we'll try to reconnect with Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Then I'll go now to page 16, as promised. And Ministry targets 50% turnout in district-level election. The Ministry of Local Government Decentralization and Rural Development has urged the electorate to fully participate in the upcoming district-level election on December the 19th. That's just about 6 days away. Quoting the ministry, "We know the turnout for district-level elections in the country in previous years has been extremely low, but we are targeting at least 50% turnout this time round, and we want all, irrespective of party affiliation, to go to the polls in their numbers on the day to cast their ballots," the sector minister, Dan Boche, appealed. But in the end, it will depend on what people feel they will get if they go and vote. That is the crux of the conversation. You know, it's the thrust of it, basically. People usually feel, and when I had the presiding member together with the analyst discussing this matter with me, people feel for the parliamentary elections and the presidential elections in a main electoral year, this is what is at stake. But at that level, they feel, well, what do I really stand to gain and all of that? Those are the problems. That is why we need more sensitization, more education on the matter, and also making these people at the grassroots perhaps more effective so that people can see what they bring to bear. And I don't know whether the political route is the way to go, but that is for us as a people, the generality of the population, to decide. On that same page, Kusasi's Mamprusi's peace possible. That's according to Dr. Baumia. And then set up committee to probe irregularities in PAC report. Majority leader urges Parliament. All right, so we'll check out some other stories. I'm just trying to see when Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante can join the conversation. On the international front, Zimbabweans shocked as finance minister named Africa's best. You know, sometimes some things in Africa really. But yesterday, a colleague, brought this to my attention, and we had a good laugh about it. But many Zimbabweans have reacted with astonishment after Mthuli Nkobe was named Best African Finance Minister of the Year, despite the country's economic turmoil. One user on X, formerly known as Twitter, said the award was, quote, akin to applauding a captain for steering a ship straight into an iceberg. Another user called it, quote, the greatest joke of the decade. Zimbabwe's unemployment rate is as high as 85%, economists say. Up to 80% of transactions are carried out in US dollars because of a lack of confidence in the local currency, according to the Reuters news agency. Oh, who was talking about Ghana's finance minister? I don't know. I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything about that. Let's leave that out. But then let's look at page 9. Harvard board keeps president following anti-Semitism backlash. I followed this story keenly. Claudine Gay. UPenn was in there. Their president has left. She had issues with anti-Semitism even before this Israel-Palestine standoff in recent times. Others have been also pointed at, including the Harvard president. But she's had quite some support, and I love one stance that was adopted. A lot of these professors, you know, the staff, teaching staff, over 1,400, over 700 of them threw their support behind her with a petition. A lot of the board has also done same. You would have alumni, among others, throwing their support. But one thing that resonated, that ran through, and I think our institutions here, like the University of Ghana, among others, can learn from. Don't let people, simply because they are contributors. And Harvard, by the way, in terms of what they get every year, donations and others, we're talking of north of $50 billion. That's more than the GDP of about 120 countries, okay? That is individually. But you don't let those people control you simply because they're making donations. And I agree, some people have felt aggrieved by the stance she adopted. She's apologized on some fronts. She's been very empathetic. She's been open for discussion. She's the first person of black extraction to head that institution. And I think sometimes it's too easy, like we saw with Kwesi Kwarteng in the UK as Exchequer. It's too easy when you're a black person to be axed, to be sacrificed, to be thrown under the bus. I am happy that in this instance they've retained the person. She's of quality. I do agree that some of the comments were not in the best of taste, but that's not enough to throw her under the bus. So donations, yes. There was also talk about politicians. There were people in Congress who had said she had to go and all of that, especially from the Republican side. Well, I disagree with them forcefully on that bit. Who doesn't make mistakes at some point? So that's the issue there. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, are you back with us? Can you hear me? Well, I don't think we have Doc. We'll keep moving, and as and when we can have him join the conversation, we'll take it from there. The Ghanaian Times newspaper this morning, Boku chieftaincy conflict, development not war. Veep urges Kausaug Mampusis to end the conflict. I know I may have murdered the Kausaug. If you are an indigene of that area, I think I've met this word before. Do share with me how it is properly to be pronounced. If I got it right too, let me know. There's also EC to hold district level elections in Jasikan and the Gwan districts December 19. You know, there have been issues with the Sao area, Santo Kofi, Akpafu, Likpe, and Lolobi, among others. And let's see how this goes in these communities. Then there's MTTD rates in 2 million Ghana cedis in fines against 2,705 traffic offenders. And there's strengthened existing anti-graft agencies. That's according to the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin. But let me get into the stories very quickly as we take a look at some of the most topical ones. There is the Electoral Commission will conduct the district-level elections in the Jasikan and Gwan districts on December 19, 2023, the same day as the other districts. Although nominations were not received on the 16th and 17th of November for the election, the CI 119, that is to be amended, which was laid in Parliament, has not matured. The EC, in a press statement signed by its acting head of public affairs, Mr. Michael Bwedu, said, following the passage of the CI and in accordance with the District Level Elections Regulations 2015, that is CI 89, the Electoral Commission would conduct the district level elections in these two districts on the 19th of December 2023. According to the statement posted on its website, the EC said nomination forms may be obtained free of charge at the Jasikan and Gwan district offices of the Electoral Commission or on the website of the Commission. There's also the story there on page, it's supposed to be on page 13, or okay, so that story I have already done. Let me go to pages 3 and 4 now. And the Motor Traffic and Transport Department of the Ghana Police Service has, between January and October 2023, secured convictions for nearly 3,000 traffic offenders, contributing to a significant decline in road accidents and fatalities. Notable interventions, including Operation Pails, that is, Police Anti-Insecure Loading Enforcement Strategy, and Police Invisible Eyes, have contributed to these convictions. Currently, 12 individuals are serving jail terms, while fines imposed on others significantly contribute to the country's revenue. There was also talk about the head talking about, it says, in this process, January to October this year, we can report that in all our efforts, about 2,705 offenders, when they were put before court, were convicted. So far, 12 are in jail, and the court imposed varying fines on all, and so far it has accrued into the state coffers a total fine of 1,988,219 Ghana cedis. We hope this will go a long way to deter those who are bold to repeat such behaviors and deter those who intend to start for the first time. Well, kudos to the police, but I'll say this. Sometimes I've heard stories, and it's happened to me before, they stop you for no reason. Sometimes. And there's no justifiability. There was a time when some officers stopped me, and I ran a few things by them, and they were now, it gets problematic. And sometimes it's simply because, yes, I'll say it, they want to take something. But especially when you know that for those of us out there, because both the one giving and the one taking, there are issues in there. So if you know you've not done anything wrong, I know sometimes the other angle is there's bullying, and they try to bully you into a certain corner. There are some of the police officers who do that. Don't pander to them. Don't. If they have evidence, let them show it. Let them prove it. I have seen, sometimes I'm in traffic and you see that they've stopped someone. Yes, sometimes the people have offended, but sometimes it's no offense and they're just trying to cook up something. That too is a problem. So while I salute the Ghana Police Service, I salute the MTTD, let's do the right thing on the other end as well. Then I'll go to page 4 now. And there, strengthen existing anti-graft agencies. That's the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin, who has described the passage of the Office of Special Prosecutor Act as an exercise in futility. The Speaker said the solution to fight against corruption was not to create another bureaucratic institution, but rather strengthen existing anti-graft agencies. If you followed the news this morning, he mentions the fact that some of those powers are interwoven, if you like, into the powers of the Attorney General. So why we've conducted these separations and all of that, only God knows. But I'll put it out to you as well. If I were to ask you, yes, Kisie Jabeng, a legal luminary in the context, is doing quite a bit of work. Martin Amidu did his bit. But if I asked you, what purpose really has the Office of the Special Prosecutor served to us as Ghanaians with what we've invested in it? What would you say? Prosecutions? Results? What would you say? Can we even beat our chests and say, yes, we set up an ombudsman or an Office of the Special Prosecutor, these are the results? Where are the culprits? And everyone who has gone there has been some way of getting them off the hook. So to what end, I ask? To what end? And we're pumping money into that. So it's not to impugn the character of the Special Prosecutor. No, it has nothing to do with the two people, Martin Amidu and Kisie Jabeng. It has nothing to do with them. They're occupying the office. It's about the office itself, what it's supposed to do. It also reminds me of Daniel Yao Domelevo. Before he came, the Auditor General had certain powers that had never been used, never been properly applied. He came and started enforcing things, and now there is at least a little trend with the person who followed him in following suit, though it's nothing like what he was doing. Again, you have an instance where this is what the law says, but the application, it's almost, what's the word? It's very nebulous, because then, are you here or there? What do you have to do? You do this, the courts say you don't have those powers. You don't do this, people say you are not acting well. I don't want to be in the shoes of the Special Prosecutor. It's quite a tricky place to be. But let me try one more time. Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, can you hear me, sir?
Can you hear me too?
I can hear you now. I've all right. Deliberated on a number of stories. I was asking you about our lithium bid. Then there was the district level elections. The ministry in charge is targeting a 50% turnout. And I've also read this bit about the OSP. And the Speaker of Parliament is saying we must strengthen existing anti-graft agencies. And you know, he has said that the setting up of the office, the policy and everything, the act was an exercise in futility. I don't know whether for you, the office has served its purpose. What are your reactions?
Yeah, I'll deal with the OSP. You realize that in principle, it's supposed to be a good institution to be able to deal with our problems.
Right.
But unfortunately, the results that we are getting is not what we expect. Simply because, one, we have failed to support the office with resources. You recall that Mr. Amidu himself complaining, and then Mr. Javin in recent times complaining about resource, and he has not been receiving salary. You recall that statement he made earlier.
Right.
It tells you that such an important office, we are toying with it. You establish such an office without what needed resources. Two, if you look at the frustration Mr. Jabing is going, it tells you that it's that we really want to fight corruption. And I have always said no, because from all the things I've read about works that Levine and co they did, people, anti-graft institutions and all that, the end game is that we have not seen much effort towards with this issue head on. So because it's a sensitive, important matter to voters and Ghanaians for that matter, we always want to see expression of it during campaign. And that is why the political actors will quickly put something together and come and tell us about it. But if you ask me, is it the case that they really want to fight corruption? I'll say no. I'll say no. So you can understand it from this perspective. The other bit about the district assembly election, which you touched on. Yes, we have time and again the complaint about numbers dwindling in terms of
Doc, are you there? Well, if there's enough time, we're just around the cusp of the conversation, at the very tail end of it. But let me just bring this by your way, and if we're able to get Doc for some final words, we'll be able to do that. The final newspaper, it talks about, I've looked at some other stories, so I'll not go back to them. I support ongoing talks to bring Alan back into NPP. That's Odenihun Kweku Appiah, Coca, as he is called. Creation of OSP is an act in futility, that's according to Bagbin, and of course, other stories that we've already taken a look at. But let me take a quick look at why Coca thinks they should bring Alan back. In the midst of internal challenges and strategic preparations for the 2024 elections, Odenihun Kweku Appiah, popularly known as Coca, the former constituency chairman of Ifija-Kwabre South for the MPP, has expressed support for ongoing efforts to bring Alan Chemating and his team back into the party. Coca revealed that discussions were underway with Alan and his team to facilitate their return to the MPP, discouraging any plans of Alan contesting as an independent presidential candidate in 2024. Stressing the importance of unity within the party, he fears that Alan's independent run could adversely impact the MPP's chances in the upcoming elections. Doc, you were making a point, and I also want to just run this by you as we get ready to wrap. There is Coca, former constituency chair in Ifija-Kwabre South of the MPP, Odenihun Kweku Appiah, who says he supports ongoing talks to bring Alan back into the MPP fold. And if that is not done, it will affect the MPP in the 2024 elections. What is your take on that? And then there's also this this final bit. AG to call 11 witnesses in NAM1 trial. The NAM1 trial still continues. Any quick thoughts on that?
I'll look at Alan's story, effort to bring him back. Well, I respect the view of Mr. Coker, but I want to find out whether this view is generally shared by the top brass of the party. I'm not sure that's the case, because if you look at the attack dogs that the party has released ever since Alan left, their fold, they are attacking him left and right and center. You record that I have said and caution MPP that the very person you are attacking now, a time will come, you kneel down before him for him to be able to, see you through. And in no time, this thing is a reality here. Now, somebody leaves a political party, and all of a sudden he has turned into what? An enemy. And all that. You are attacking him left and right, clearing his posters and all that. Today, why do you want to get him back? Are they not those who were calling his bluff? And I'm not talking about Mr. Coker per se, but the party was calling his bluff. He can go out. We've seen that with him time and again, and that nothing will happen and all that. Leave him to campaign and then do your own stuff. So all that Mr. Coker is asking for, here is a good thing, but I'm not sure Alan will come back. It will be laughable on the part of Alan to come back.
You say it will be laughable on Alan's part to come back?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Why would he want to come back after all the noise, after all the things he said about the party and all that? When did the party turn a new leaf for him to come back and then come to the party and all that? As far as you and I are concerned, the evils that he complained in the party have not gone away. So if he should come back, he will suffer credibility crisis, I can assure you.
Doc, unfortunately, the connection hasn't allowed us to expatiate a lot on the discussions we would have wanted to have this morning, but we're grateful that you've actually taken the time to share your thoughts with us. We're grateful for your time. And that's how we're going to cap off the news review. Doc, I wish you the best of the day. That is Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He is a political scientist and director of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. If today happens to be your birthday, we celebrate you. Wherever you are, we're grateful and we wish you the very best. This segment, as always, is brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. What they're offering you, if you're a man, is prostate screening for free. And if you're a woman, fertility screening for free. Here's where you can locate them. Their offices across the length and breadth of the country, starting with Accra, Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi, Kronomabwe behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hansu and Esiamanzima. Their call lines are you ready? 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But the start of sports up next. Do stay.
Good morning, everyone. We are exactly 30 days away from the commencement of the next edition of the African Cup of Nations that will stage in Cote d'Ivoire. Ghana is yet to make public where the senior national team, the Black Stars, will be camping for the competition. However, former head coach of the Black Stars, C.K. Akuno, is very confident that Chris Hilton and his boys will be ready to compete and deliver the AFCON trophy Ghana has not been able to lay its hands on since 1982. According to him, with the right preparations, the Black Stars will give Ghanaians the best of participation when it comes to the African Cup of Nations. Ghana's World Cup 2026 qualifying matches against Madagascar and Comoros. Media reports suggested the GFA was considering parting company with the former Newcastle United manager Akuno, who was in a similar situation in September 2021 until he was sacked. Believes such reports could put pressure on the coach and has asked for the atmosphere surrounding the team to be conducive.
I know what he's going through. It's a difficult path. Sometimes you can get confused, especially when the whole nation at you, you know. But I think we need to be calm. There's a need for calmness, whereby we prepare very well, we are focused, and have a strategy as to how we can go into this tournament. And so it's a big deal for us as a football nation, but we need to calm down and allow him to prepare the team very well, adequately, so we can go to this tournament and do well.
Despite pressure and uncertainty surrounding the future of Hilton, he is expected to lead the Black Stars to Cote d'Ivoire, seeking to end Ghana's over 40 years of unsuccessful attempts to lift the AFCON. CK reckons with the right preparations, the 4 times AFCON champions will make an impact in the competition.
Every tournament has its own way of difficulties, you know, but I think there is a chance for us, like any other team, to go in, prepare very well, and get a cup. so it's something we can achieve. It's something that we've yearned for it for a long time. There's a need for us, not just the coach, but the people around him also to help and support, because it's for us, not for an individual, you know. So I think we should have a teamwork, a plan. The other day I heard Kufuor is talking about plan and how we can even prepare for this tournament. Sometimes what we normally do, we wait till the last minute and then the planning starts from way back, you know, and we need to prepare very well and get in there. I feel this time around, once we do it, there's a chance for us to win a tournament.
Ghana is housed in Group B with serial winners Egypt, 2013 group openers Cape Verde and Mozambique. The Black Stars will open its campaign against Cape Verde on January 14, 2024. Sika Akuno, he was speaking at the 10th anniversary of the Wembley Sports Construction Limited. This is a company that has decided to construct astroturfs across the country, and in its 10th anniversary, Chief Executive Officer of the company, Robert Coleman, says his vision is to ensure that there are better pitches across the country for talents to be unearthed in Ghana.
Wembley Sports Construction began its journey about a decade ago with the construction of the Wembley Sports Complex in Kotobabi. The company shot to limelight when former Black Stars captain Asamoah Gyan engaged them to build an astroturf for his alma mater Accra Academy. Robert Coleman recalled the genesis of this journey and the impact it has made in society.
Humility is the word that I would say it brings me memories where I started from, the family in which I was born to, and it also humbles me. That's what I can say, because looking at the vision that I had and the fact that within these 10 years we have been able to change the perception, the way people decided to see AstroTurf, and the fact that government itself has endorsed this project, I'm extremely excited. And let me use this opportunity to commend His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. I think they have been phenomenal, and I will also want to show appreciation to the former mayor of Accra, who gave us the first approval together with Elvis Afri-Yankra, the local government minister then, to do the first edifice in Kotobabi. So on this day, I cannot but to say I'm extremely excited and I'm very happy, and I am grateful to them.
Coleman also adds that he will continue to ensure there are enough pitches to help unearth more talents in the country.
The vision is huge. The vision, I must say, is very huge. You know, the last time I counted, we have over 5,000 gravel and sandy pitches across the length and breadth of the country. That should let you know that the vision is very, very huge. And on that basis, I believe strongly that next year we should be able to do more.
In attendance at the anniversary celebration were former Black Stars players including Augustine Ahemfo, Lai Kingston, CK Akono, Stephen Appiah, Kwame Ayu, and Emmanuel Ama Senegal. Brand ambassador of Wembley Sports Construction Company Limited, Stephen Appiah, lauded the idea of Robert Coleman to make quality pitches available for young players to also develop themselves.
Wembley has done so much. He's doing so well, especially with
with the quality of astrograph that they use, I think that is perfect, and that's why today when it comes to, when you come to Ghana, he is the best when it comes to astroturf, artificial turf construction.
As part of celebrations for the milestone, Coleman brought together widows and orphans to share in his joy. He also rewarded some of the workers of the company with citations during the event.
This is our wrap up AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abla. But just before I go, I did mention to you that on Tuesday, the Parliamentary Select Committee on Sports was expected to meet the Ministry of Youth and Sports and demand answers from them how Ghana's World Cup prize money dropped from $9 million to $7.9 million, which is $1.1 million less. Well, the meet did happen, and apparently the Ministry of Youth and Sports was not giving proper explanation as to how the prize money dropped to $7.9 million. So what next for the Parliamentary Select Committee on Sports? They will be inviting the Ghana Football Association to a meeting to demand answers so that they would explain how the money dropped from 9 million to 7.9 million. If you read on myjoyonline.com, the story we published, we attached the emails that we had with FIFA, and FIFA clearly stated that the sum received, where the word received was highlighted, and also the amount credited to the Ghana Football Association could be found in page 219 of the FIFA financial report for 2022. And page 219 says it is $9 million. GFA says it is $7.9 million. Now, Parliament is about to investigate that. We'll have details for you in our subsequent bulletins as we continue to follow this story. We appreciate your time with us this morning.
Well, thank you very much for staying. We get into our big stories now, and a number of matters we're going to be discussing. But topical among them, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin says setting up the office of the Special Prosecutor was an act in futility. He has shared his thoughts on that matter. We'll also be looking at Parliament and some of the latest arrangements as far as that institution is concerned. There has also been some discussion on the appropriate punishments for persons who engage in LGBTQ sex as the House continues the consideration of the controversial bill. There has been talk on the floor of Parliament about be careful, because with these things, it could easily lead into, when you talk about unnatural carnal knowledge and all of that, how about married couples and all that, heterosexual couples, that is. We'll be getting into all those discussions this morning on the show. Our guests, Al-Hassan Suini, his Member of Parliament for Tamale North, and we also have Collins Adomako Mensah, MP Effijakwabre North, both of them from constituencies in the north. North, that's what I mean, not from the northern belt of our country. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Morning, man.
Thank you for joining us on the show. I have a special liking for both of you and how you discuss matters. So I'm hoping that today we shall keep it crisp and nice and no giddy giddy. I'll try to be a fair arbiter all through. And I shouldn't make it controversial. Right. You know that person who said that, oh, you have freedom of speech, but freedom of speech. I can't guarantee that. I know, right? I will not be a little mischievous. It's all part of it. But gentlemen, let's start from your constituencies. I'll start with you, Collins. Yeah. I always like to know what is going on in the constituency. What's the latest from Effijakwabre North? What's happening there?
Primaries.
Okay. I knew you would mention. I would have been surprised if you hadn't mentioned that.
January 27th. So the campaign mode has just started.
In full swing, eh?
Full swing. I have two other people who have decided to contest with me. And so that, of course, is the beauty of democracy. I came in through a contest. So I don't have much problem with that.
You don't have a problem being contested?
Not at all. And so nominations will be open on the 20th and then closes on the 25th which is the Christmas day. And from there we have our vetting, and then we proceed to have our elections on the 27th. And so, yes, activities at the constituency is heating up for our January elections. But this Friday, I have a program. You know, education has been very, very paramount on my agenda. And for the first time, we're having our Teachers Awards, sponsoring the Teachers Awards in collaboration with the District Education Directorate. And so this Friday, we are going to award our teachers and to thank them for the effort they've put in all these years. You know, we come from a rural area, and to have teachers dedicated to come to those areas to teach our kids, we just have to appreciate their efforts. Yeah. So this Friday, hopefully, we'll have a beautiful program. We have confirmation from the Deputy Minister of Education to grace the occasion for us in Team Fojo, and in collaboration with the District Chief Executive, we'll be awarding our teachers. And so that is the activity for the weekend. Of course, funerals are standard procedures in our areas, and so we'll take our time to spend the weekend in the constituency to attend to social gatherings. The regional youth of our party, MPP, is also organizing the youth conference on Saturday. Right. I'm one of the invited guests because of my age, obviously. So we'll pass through on Saturday and then go back to the constituency to be with the constituents. So basically that's what is happening within the constituency. But it's very peaceful. Okay. We don't have too much problem. Of course, the last time I was here, we talked about our roads. I have one major road that is still a concern to me. I'm getting some positive feedback. I hope that early next year, the contractors will come back to site.
I'll come back to you briefly on something. I don't want to hint at it yet. But how about your constituency, Tamale North? What's Tamale North like?
It's good. Alhamdulillah, we'll say. And let me say good morning to our viewers, especially the very good people of the Tamale North constituency. I returned from the constituency only yesterday.
Okay. So you have the latest of news to share with us.
Yes, so I spent the whole of the weekend there, engaging with constituents and also inspecting a number of projects that we have been undertaking with the support of NGOs especially, and some also central government. So we, over the weekend, this week, that's Sunday, we, together with my constituencies, I went round to visit an ongoing construction of a drain around 4, and this drain, it's a bridge actually, but it's a bridge done on a very big storm drain. Now, we are not able to do the storm drain yet, but with the necessary interventions, we have been successful at getting it awarded to a contractor to just, for now, construct the culvert that will create a bridge, because the drain separates two very important communities, and then Kwabel Mahago, as we call it. And sometimes for people to access services around the 4 area, they have to go all the way to central town before they come back to 4, and vice versa. So that is a very important bridge. We also have a similar one that is to link between Kalpohene and Paumo, which is also underway. So we went to inspect that as well. With the help of Qatar Charity, a non-governmental organization, we are also putting up a clinic together with nurses' quarters and a borehole, a mechanized borehole at Chogo, in the Chogo electoral area. So we went to inspect the progress of work also there. There's also the call on, by many communities for the extension of electricity. My constituency is largely 100% covered by electricity, but you have new settlements coming up every now and then. And so when those new settlements spring up, you need to extend electricity to those areas. And sometimes the pressure when they do their own connections on the transformers that were initially stationed in those areas become burdened. And so with some negotiations and engagements, we are replacing a number of the transformers in the Boile, Taha areas, and so I went to inspect that as well. So a number of activities happening in the constituency, and only yesterday I engaged with a very progressive non-governmental organization also in the area of education, known as Lively Minds, and I was amazed at what I saw. I was invited to be the ambassador, and I decided that before accepting to be the ambassador, there was a need for me to go to the field to find out what they have been doing. And they have this concept of teaching at the KG level, which has been adopted now by the GES as part of the curriculum. And I was amazed at how they get mothers in the community, 10 a day, to be part of the teaching process of the KG kids. I mean, teaching through activities, through games, and through natural, using the natural surrounding to teach these kids. Right. Using L1 to L2. Amazing job that they have been doing, and they are in about 6 regions of Ghana now, and covering many districts in the country, and the intention is to roll it out throughout the whole country, and I am proud to be associated with their activities. I was amazed at the good work that they are doing to build the foundation of these kids.
Definitely something to
education, yes.
To salute in that regard, because we know there are areas too where recently we highlighted one of these stories about MTN putting up, some schools in some part of the country. I've forgotten exactly where, a rural community. The schools were so bad, no one wanted to go to school. Now, MTN went and put up facilities there, and the population has grown about 3-4-fold. Yeah. In fact, now some schools, other schools in the area, their headmasters are complaining to the headmaster of that school because all the students want to come to
the new school. Yeah.
The new school. So it's pathetic. On the other hand, our latest installment of Ghana Schools of Shame, I think Christ the Answer RC Basic School in is it Mepe? I have to check. And then Mepe, and you look at the structure, you wouldn't want even your worst enemy to be there. So it's part of the puzzle, and the story about schools and the trees and all of that. I'm not saying it's a current issue, that it's been with us for a long time. We really need to look at those. But coming back to you briefly, I want you very briefly on this. We've had your orphan constituency primaries, okay? It was pretty interesting, but we also noticed the influence of money in politics. Yesterday over here, and that's an issue that I'll come back to you with, district level elections. I had a presiding member together with an analyst of the system tell me that, listen, you know what? Let's go political on it because it's politics anyway. It's NDC, NPP. It's going on. Let's go that way just to sanitize it and maybe for better development. But the influence. I remember, I think Secheduma say, and somewhere, one of the constituencies in the Greater Accra region, I mean, open people with envelopes with the names of the candidates on them. We captured those. And now the OSP, you may have seen that the OSP started following some of them. One didn't have names on it. They set up tents feeding the people. I mean, when are we going to? I don't know. But when the NDC also had theirs, you remember, it was so sad for me because you remember the lady who was spraying money out of her, and her excuse, she found money in her car. I don't know whether her car is a bank. And she was, when are we going to stop this? Because in the end, it sows the seed of corruption right from the start. So when you get in, you want to recoup. You want to... What do you feel about these? Very quickly on that.
So meaning he took the ring. This is exactly what we were discussing.
Conversation we were having.
Okay, which I didn't even know.
Yes, the conversation we were just having off air before we came. And it's I mean, the number of requests I've received from candidates contesting for this assembly elections, you'll be amazed.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised. I mean, I get calls every day, and interestingly, our election is in January.
Yeah.
And you have some of our delegates contesting
now.
And
they are basically telling you.
They are basically telling you
that you scratch my back now.
Basically telling you that
I scratch your back later.
Yeah, but next week Tuesday, and yours is a month from there. So, my brother, it's a very difficult situation, and I think both political parties must sit and have a very, very frank discussion on the way forward for this, our politics. I fear sometimes that it is just not sustainable. It will get to a stage, if we are not careful, the caliber of people who will get to parliament.
Yeah.
If you don't have money, no matter your intellectual capacity or anything, you can't enter parliament.
It's about the highest bidder or the one who has someone with deep pockets who can sponsor him or her. That's it.
That's it.
Bottom line.
Bottom line. If you are not careful, we get to a stage, that is where we have to head to. I have my election in January, and I don't even want to discuss how I intend to prosecute that election in a month's time. I mean, I spoke to some few elderly people, when one screamed at me, how can you ask me this kind of money? Why? What are you going to use it for? And I'm like, oh, it's for elections. I have to. He said, no. He just could not understand.
He couldn't
understand why.
You know, yesterday when I spoke to the presiding member, I asked him, look, we've seen figures in the past about MPs, how much you need to even win your primaries, how much you need when you are the candidate, how much you need as a president and all of that. How about at this level, the local level? He said, Charlie, you don't need anything less than 50,000 Ghana cedis. And they too will have to go around doing the same thing.
And even nowadays, I've been watching your program. The delegates are bold.
Yeah.
To display the envelopes that have been given to them to the media.
That was exactly what I was saying. I think that it was the guy in Sechodimaso or one of those who said, no cash, no vote.
We are getting to a stage where the issue of corruption is now, it's become normal. I mean, give me money, I vote for you. And delegates, I watched one, Dade Kotopon, one of the areas, and he was just indicating, way free. Some of the delegates, some of the candidates have went even further to print their names.
Yeah, on the envelope.
To indicate that this particular envelope is coming from me.
When the party had said that it was providing TNT and they had to do nothing, warned them against it, they still went ahead with it.
So it's a big problem, and it's good that we're having a discussion about it. I get worried as a politician. Of course, at my age, I get worried. How much am I supposed to pay in the next 4 years if I'm still in the game?
Yeah.
In the next 8 years, how much am I supposed to gather to come back to Parliament? So it's a discussion that I think we must. I've heard a lot of civil society groups have talked about it. I think the political parties themselves must have a very strong punishment or sanctions to candidates who go that way. But my brother, it's a difficult area.
I know. I don't envy you guys. Honestly, I don't. Chief, you're also in the same soup. How hot is the soup?
The soup is as hot as the country is. And sometimes I think that it is important that we are having these discussions, but I think that we do not make the conversations deep enough.
Okay. Let's get incisive then.
Yes. I think that we all know what the problem is, but we pretend about it. First of all, in discussing this topic, I have always said that there's a need for us to all agree and establish the point that every campaign of whatever nature or form is expensive to carry out.
Right.
Whether it's a media campaign, a media house, engaging or embarking on a campaign of whatever nature, it's going to cost that media house. You have to raise sponsors. I mean, if you, for example, decide that you are waging a war against Galamsey as a media house, you want to highlight it, it's going to cost you. Yeah. Whether it's a church that is organizing a campaign, be it a Watch 9 service or a crusade,
service,
or a crusade, whatever it is, it's going to cost you.
Right.
So every campaign, whether it's a corporate entity that is introducing a new product.
That is fair.
Yeah, so
it gets into politics.
I'm getting there. So I'm saying we need to first of all establish that campaign of every nature cost money. Now, when we establish that, then we get into politics and we ask ourselves, how much is too much when you are prosecuting a political campaign? So when we find an answer to that question of how much is too much, then we can begin to legislate, possibly, and also, provide transparent ways of raising the funds reporting the usage of the funds. And that, for me, is how to deal with the corruption or the possible corruption associated with political campaigns. But if we just have the conversation and leave it to people who are in the enterprise, we will be practical like parents are, like teachers are. Because today, why is there that struggle between GES and teachers and parents? My ward is in school. My ward is not well fed. The school is not supposed to charge. The head teacher knows that. But the head teacher cannot watch the children's lab. I cannot, as a parent, imagine that my child is not well fed.
Right.
So we become practical. And then when we are practical, we are told we are breaking regulations.
You are indicted for it.
You are indicted for it. So it's the same thing. I'm a politician. I'm into politics to do good. But for me to remain in a position where I can actually do good, the demands...
You must actually do some bad.
Are you getting the point?
To remain good, you must do some bad.
So you need to understand that people who are in that establishment are also being practical. It's just like to keep my child being fed well, or to also, as a head teacher, make sure that the children under my care do not starve. I have to do some good by asking parents to pay when I'm told not to let them pay. So it's the same thing, the same situation that politicians find themselves in. So I am here. I am a member of parliament. For me to get re-elected, there are certain things I have to do because it is expected of me. Are you getting it? Sometimes you don't go making those offers. In fact, it's a headache to go around and raise some of these funds for some of these projects. But trust me, I mean, I just told you the number of projects that I went round to inspect. If you add it to the other projects that have already been executed in the constituency, all aimed at public service, I can bet you that it will contribute only about 30 to 40% of the reasons why people will re-elect me.
That's right.
It will contribute only about 30 to 40%. What will be more important is the personal gains, the personal benefits. For example,
we're talking of money.
Exactly.
It boils down to money.
This weekend,
you hand over.
As part of my common fund, I was able to assist tertiary students with about 90,000 Ghana cedis for their fees. But trust me, I still had to, at some point, run away from the constituency because after the 90,000, that was used to support people who applied, about 120 students, the pressure rather increased.
Yeah. Oh, MP Yazo, it means goody day. So you are dropping 90,000 somewhere. It means money day.
Exactly. And you have to strike that balance of ensuring that you utilize that little fund that comes to you for the infrastructural needs of the community and the personal needs of the community. But when we determine how much is too much in prosecuting a political campaign and institute transparent ways of reporting fundraising and also reporting utilization of funds raised, I think we'll be making steps towards checking.
You have said something
corruption
in the mode of a solution. Yeah. I'll come to you. Like I said, he's made my little house come out.
Yeah.
That it means MP Yazo, Kudi Yazo. It means MP has come, money has come. That is the mentality. How then do we get ourselves out of this mess? Do you have any practical solutions? You sit there, I find it repugnant, the sums of money that per different reports an MP needs. MPO, you want to serve your constituents. You need how many hundreds of thousands, even into the millions.
Billions.
When it comes to the presidency, don't even talk about it. You're talking many, many millions of dollars. You're talking about 100 million plus Ghana cedis and all of that. I mean, how do you expect someone, I want to come and serve you and I have to? I can't do that. I don't even, if I had those resources, I would invest them in something else.
Let me tell you a funny story. When the NDC had their presidential primaries, I was on the sets, and at the time, His Excellency had paid 40 cedis, GM. Then I multiplied the 40 cedis by
the number of delegates.
And I was on TV. Hey, GM, how can you get 15 million to do this? Then it goes to our 10.
And then you were like,
the gentleman had a debate with called me. Hey, Collins.
Yeah.
Hey. It's you see, my wife is a very calm person. She's not too much into the politics. So she normally does not follow me around. Last Christmas, I went with her and the family. And then anytime I enter the room, I come and pick some and then go back. One time I entered, it was like, Collins, this thing you guys are doing, I'm not too sure it's sustainable. Yeah. It's you see,
many of us
support this. Yes, Sumini made a very interesting point. I have become a member of parliament for 3 years. Yeah. In all honesty, I think I've served them well. I think I've brought some development within these 3 years. And my hope was that they were going to base my re-election on the contribution that I've brought to the constituency within these 3 years. I go to delegates, I give them a call, they speak to me nicely, and then I get a call from someone. She has just forgotten that I just commissioned a 16-seater ultramodern toilet facility in her area.
Yeah.
That she's been crying for all these years.
Yeah.
She's just forgotten about it. She's just forgotten that I paid personally to get a grader to level her road for her to have a smooth passage. She's just forgotten that.
Yeah.
She's thinking about what I'm going to give to her
she's
personally.
thinking, I know it's for the community.
Personally.
How about my individual one?
That is my job.
Yeah.
My job is to go to government and lobby for these things to happen.
Even those things technically are not your work.
That's
technically. They are not even your work.
But the point
but you're going ahead to do it.
For it. To lobby for it.
We all do that.
Yes, and we all do that.
It's part of the job too.
And my hope was that they were going to look at that to give me another chance to serve. But no, somebody is telling me, and they say it now without even fear. They say it freely. Yes, without shame. They tell you that, why are they mum now? They say it. They say it. So I like the issue of legislation. And the Electoral Commission, I think their laws gives political parties to report back on their finances and all that. Maybe we should try and strengthen that arm, because you could see clearly that what is happening clearly is not sustainable. We might get to a
political party funding and maybe should we? I have noticed looking at laws and as a student of the law, looking at laws across the world, sometimes the only way to get people to fall in line is to twist their arm, legally speaking. You fall foul, we deal with you. And then over time, just like in Singapore, Singapore was pretty much like how we are now. Over time, hey, you can't spit around the street. You can't do this. Then you have a reorientation. Then the generation that comes after your generation comes to meet that is their way of life. And then you have closed the old chapter. It's a new page, okay? Do we get stiff and say, you know what? So the law now is, and of course, the other side of the conversation is those who also want to take. They are a major part because if there is no demand, there will be no supply. Whether you are giving or taking, no matter who you are, you can even be the president or the former president or whatever. We catch you involved in X, Y, Z. That is it. You are in the cooler. And we'll do, I don't know, but else I don't see how this is ever going to stop. What do we do?
Well, you talk about the law. The laws are there. You are just asking that we activate the laws and punish people for wrongdoing. The laws are there. The Electoral Commission says every political party must report back on their finances every year. And maybe you could check from the Electoral Commission and see whether even the major political parties, whether we are complying with this directive.
I want us to move away from this. Quickly, what do we do? Actuals. For me, what do we do?
For me, I think that the difference between our system and systems that are considered to be working, especially maybe democracies that are older than ours, is the transparency. Look, elsewhere, campaign fundraising is even used to determine the popularity of a candidate. So how much a candidate is able to raise for his campaign or her campaign is not an issue. It's actually a positive issue. That's why Barack Obama then was considered a very credible candidate because of how much his campaign team was able to raise
transparently.
So that's why I said. That's why I said the difference. You know, I started by saying the difference between our system and systems that work is the issue of transparency. So first of all, we need to ensure that people, I mean, the institution is there for transparent reporting of how funds are raised and how funds are utilized. So that it will not be an issue if a politician A is able to raise millions of cedis for his or her campaign, the system should be there for us to know how and where he or she is raising it from. And then the utilization. The reporting system should also be there. And where there's an infringement, the punishment should be spelled out. For example, you can be disqualified from the race when you are found culpable of any infringements. So we just need laws that govern campaign fundraising, reporting utilization of those funds. And with that, we can begin to work on the minds of people to understand that yes, we can raise funds to prosecute campaigns, but when we raise the funds, this is the way we are supposed to utilize it. And when we don't utilize it in that manner, we will be disqualified. And so if you think I'm a good candidate, but my inability to pay you money, you know, will make you not vote for me, you will be the loser in the end. You know, so we need those transparent systems, in my view. It is the only way to bring our system up at the same level with systems that
both the NDC,
otherwise,
both the NDC and the MPP, these laws have been on our books, but you've not been able to actualize them.
No, the laws
I know the political party funding situation when you read the Constitution, among other documents. They are not. They don't suffice. They are not exhaustive enough. But even what is there, we are not abiding by.
No, I do know, and it's also because the laws are not exhaustive enough. I am very certain that the two political parties, the major ones, the NPP and the NDC, have consistently reported their financials, you know, to the Electoral Commission. But the question is, after they report, then what? You know, who audits it? You know, and what are sanctions? What sanctions are applied if there are any infringements? You know, so it is the law in its current form is not exhaustive enough, and that law doesn't even extend to members of parliament, assembly members, presiding members, how they prosecute their campaigns. We need to get the laws that will make all the processes very transparent at all levels, even institutional elections. I mean, where the systems work, even when you have union elections. The laws will work there. The way you raise funds and the way you utilize the funds, there should be a reporting system. And when any anomaly is detected, there must be sanctions to be applied. And that, for me, is the way we can deal with this possible corruption and abuse when it comes to political campaigning.
We have a representative of the MPP, a representative of the NDC. This is what they are saying. What is left is actually what happens in between. To whip everybody in line. I'm sure you're as tired as I am of this situation, but how do we handle it? That's the situation. But let me come to Collins. I want us to go to Parliament now. Two crucial issues. In fact, both of them we're going to contemplate from the standpoint of the Speaker. Even before we contemplate the bill on proper human sexual values, while that was being discussed, something else came up. The Office of the Special Prosecutor. And the Speaker said, you know what, this whole thing, the policy, the framework, the act has been an act in futility. And quoting him, he says, as for the law you passed on the Office of the Special Prosecutor, I did tell you that it was an act in futility. I maintained that you were not going to achieve anything with that, but you went ahead and passed it. I disagreed with you, but I was alone. In many places, you would have the ombudsman, different, you know, things to shape up accountability. We decided we needed a special prosecutor. Collins, with what has happened, the challenges, the rants, if you like, by both of them, both Martin Amidu and now Kisia Jabeng, is the Speaker right in this assessment?
Well, I don't have any problem with having an independent person leading a corruption fight. Prior to that, we've had issues about the Attorney General being an appointee of the government. And people felt that he, as an Attorney General, was not independent enough to prosecute his own. When I say his own government or his appointor.
And I agree with that standpoint.
Yes. So others had argued.
Not just for this administration,
yes.
Throughout this 4
Yes.
I agree with it 100%.
Yes. Others had argued that there's an Attorney General and Minister of Justice. So why don't you have an Attorney General separate from a Minister of Justice?
Right.
Then the Attorney General becomes the lead legal advisor to the government. And you have the Justice Minister dealing with corruption independently. And I'm sure because we were unable to decouple the two, that's how come the issue of an independent OSP came in. Now, this particular OSP, I watched his interview, his press conference the other time. When you talk about the challenges, what are the challenges? The stumbling blocks from who? From governments? From government officials? Or from who? What is his problem? I just want to understand.
He says the courts are dismissive of the petitions,
So when you go to
what he takes to them, that they are sort of impinging on his rights, his powers. And that is where even it becomes problematic, because some would also say that there's already an overlap of powers between the Attorney General hold on, you've asked the question.
Yes.
And the OSP. It makes matters very difficult for him. Then you would have, sometimes, he's dealing with an issue, government officials pass certain comments on what is happening, and then later certain things happen, and then you ask yourself, wait, who's really in charge here? Those are some of the things that he's complaining, even apart from the logistical constraints and everything.
Yes, I've not heard him talk about
logistical constraints.
I've not heard him talk about
He's had a litany of things he's complained about in the past. In fact, have you forgotten for how many months after taking office he hadn't been paid? His officials hadn't been paid. They didn't have money to make certain recruitments. Let's not go there. That one is already.
No.
It's
when I listen,
it's a without which not.
No. When I listened to him the last time he had a press conference, I did not hear him talk about.
The fact that he doesn't talk about it again doesn't mean. Some things have been sorted out.
I can only debate what he brings out. What are his stumbling blocks? He asks for an office that has been provided. He asks for logistics. As far as I'm concerned, that has been provided. His budget has been given. What he complained about during his press conference was what happens in court. What happens in court has nothing to do with government.
It doesn't, huh?
If you go to court, the nature or the rule of the game in court are facts. If you go there and you present a set of facts, and a counterparty also presents another set of facts,
right,
and you lose a case in court, for me that cannot be stumbling block.
I'm a student of the law, and
Yes.
I know that the law can be appreciated from. That is why you can have dissenting views.
I don't have a problem. And that is why
in
when
different rulings.
When he goes to the High Court and he loses, he has an opportunity to go to the appeals court.
Yeah.
Yes, he shouldn't be complaining that he went to court and he's been frustrated in court. What is the frustration in court? I am happy that on the part of government, the government that created this institution called the OSP, my understanding is that, and the information I have is that all the things he needs to make his work operational and smooth has been provided.
Has he been effective? Is the office serving its purpose?
I think he's brought some do I use the word fear? He's brought some excitement into the whole corruption fight.
Yeah.
I mean, he's bold to.
What has it amounted to?
I'm coming. He's bold to even. He's prosecuting a certain cabinet minister.
Yeah.
That has led to
all the prosecutions he's made. What have they led to?
But that is not me. That's not for me to judge. That is not the fault of government. The government has provided all the logistics for you to prosecute, to do your job. So when you go to court and it has not led to, all your prosecutions have not led to something else, you don't blame government.
Right.
Or you cannot blame the appointor or the one who created the institution.
And you cannot blame his effectiveness and efficiency either, can you?
But then that goes to him. If you want us to discuss his effectiveness, we can do that. I see him as a nice gentleman, very knowledgeable. We all know Kisei Jabin, who has gone through the mill, in the legal fraternity, very respected. And I think he's doing a good job. I just hope that he should just concentrate on his job and do his job as he has been mandated to. If there are any specific reasons why he thinks that government, especially government, is stampeding his process. He should make it public for us to have a dispassionate discussion about it. But what I heard him say, he never accused government of not providing all the things that he needs to execute his job. He complained about the court system. If that is the case, then if you go to High Court, there's a problem. My appeal to him is to move to the appeals court, unless there's something going on in court specifically that he wants us to discuss.
If you listened to the OSP,
yes,
you would have deduced that he felt. I mean, when he says the courts are dismissive towards his cases, that the rhetoric. I mean, you have to read between the lines. It's not for anyone to tell you.
So he's saying that when he went to court, a judge was supposed to adjudicate in a certain way, and on the basis of the judge being biased, so the judge decided to go another way. Is that what he's saying?
Well, like I said, read between the lines. So, I will not determine.
No, is that your reading of?
But read.
So is that your reading of?
You read between the lines. No, you can go and listen to him. You say you listened to him, and I'm saying you read between the lines.
I was happy he did not accuse government. I would have been very worried.
Right.
If he had said that the government that appointed or created that institution, he requested for an office has not been given. He requested for staff has not been given. His people have not been given. But that becomes a problem.
What essentially is government?
I mean, government,
the executive, the legislature, the judiciary.
No, I'm talking about the
government.
But we don't have control over the judiciary.
You don't?
We don't.
I see.
When you go to court, when OSP goes to court, are you telling me that somebody from the executive will call a judge and tell the judge that the OSP is coming? I don't like what he's doing. So if it is A, please make sure it goes to B. Is that what you're saying?
Let me put this back to you. Are you also saying that in the course of this republic, we haven't had decisions that have smacked of, and I'm very careful choosing my words carefully, because the justicial system, the judicial system is what it is. But we've also had the exposés that have exposed how people take fowls and goats and plantain and yam.
There are certain judgments.
You know.
You are a student of law.
Do certain things.
You are a student of law. When you go to the High Court and you lose a case, and you appeal it, that appeal in itself is a critique of the earlier judgment.
Right.
So I, as a person, I have read some judgment that I felt should go a certain way. I shouldn't be complaining.
You should go to the next.
The same constitution has given you a route to cure that mischief.
Okay.
If you feel so.
That is a fair point.
Yes.
Let me come to Suini. The OSP, we expend money. We've been expending money, taxpayers' resources to keep it running. Is it living up to expectation? Do you agree with the speaker who says it's an act in futility? I listened. I've also read something from Martin Kwebu, a lawyer, who says no, it is not an act in futility. Where do you stand on this?
Well, Uncle Dramani in UK is watching us and he's enjoying it. Let me just say good morning to him. He's enjoying the discussion.
Which Dramani, Dr. Rashid, or which one?
No, he lives in the UK and West.
Okay, right.
He's from Bali. You know, what the speaker said is a rehash of the debates that took place before even the bill to set up the OSP was passed. And you can understand the point that the speaker is making based on how consistent he's always been on issues that he finds wrong or right. I mean, he remains consistent on it regardless of the position that wins at the end of the day. You can always trust the Right Honourable Speaker Bagwin to remain, stuck to his convictions when he is very certain about something. So clearly, I am not surprised that he's repeating this point that he has made many times, even before the Office of Special Prosecutor was set up. Many at the time, I know, agreed with him. In fact, I was one of the people who also was persuaded by the argument that we could get better than set up an Office of Special Prosecutor. For example, I am persuaded more by the argument that we may have to revise our constitution to separate the Attorney General from the Minister of Justice, because clearly the Minister of Justice is supposed to be the President's, that's the executive's advisor on, judicial, or if you like,
the Attorney General.
Is it
They're
the Attorney
supposed
General?
to advise government, the executive,
Yes.
and all of that.
No,
then the Minister of Justice
Yes.
would then, like he mentioned,
Yeah.
focus on justice, so to speak, without any coloring, regardless of. I mean, it could be twisted around, but in many places, the AG is on the executive.
The minister is supposed to be a member of the executive.
Right.
The minister, because it's appointed by the president. But when you do that separation, then the Attorney General becomes the special prosecutor, so to speak.
Okay.
And I have been watching the prosecutions that...
Maybe it's in the semantics, it's in the title, but you go ahead.
Yes. I've been watching a number of cases, and I don't know this lady, Yvonne Obuabisa.
Mm-hmm.
She's one of the
deputy
prosecutors
right.
at the Attorney General's office. But I admire her consistency and her commitment to get, judgments in the favor of government in many of the cases that I have followed. And I want to believe that she is not really influenced that much politically. I want to believe. Because I see that some of the cases that you find her prosecuting and even securing judgments, you will think that they have some political impacts. But somehow maybe the Attorney General and Minister of Justice either find her so strong, so competent, or is supporting her, and for that reason is supporting her. But I'm saying where we have a situation where the two offices are separated, and you have somebody who is determined to do right and to ensure that people are held accountable to the law, you will not need a special prosecutor office, But that was the argument that was defeated, and the whole idea of setting up a special prosecutor, in my view, was aimed at achieving something other than what we all expected. And things that have happened since it was set up bears me out in my conviction that the office was set up for an agenda other than what we all expected.
Some have said that this entire enterprise was to create some appearance of fighting corruption without actually even touching the tail.
That's what I'm saying.
Hold on, even touching the tail of the dragon called corruption. And we've also seen, Collins, how the indexes rating corruption, real or perceived, have put us in a very bad light. So then you ask yourself, so it should show somewhere, right?
So that's the point I'm making, that I think that the people who promoted the setting up of this office had a different idea of what they wanted the office to achieve. And that was not known to all of us, because we all have very high expectations of that office. Civil society had high expectations of that office when it was set up. Then when Martin Amidu was appointed, the expectations even went out of the roof. I mean, people thought that this was the way to go. But you see, when you look back and you listen to Martin Amidu's frustrations, you begin to wonder if indeed the aim for setting up that office was in sync with the aim of civil society organizations and Ghanaians in general. Look, Martin Amidu's troubles, so to speak, got to the head when he touched the finance minister. The finance minister who is known by all to be the darling of the president. Despite opposition from even members of parliament from the NPP side, he remains in office. When he touched him, his trouble started, leading to his resignation from that office. Remember Domolevo. Domolevo's trouble started when he touched Osafo Mafo, the special advisor to the president. And Kise Jabin, Cecilia Dapa, if you look at the love letter that was exchanged between Cecilia Dapa and the president.
Interesting how you couch
You will understand.
Interesting how you couch it as a love letter.
It was. I mean, because it wasn't an official, it wasn't official language.
But that's not stopped the special prosecutor from continuing.
It hasn't, but I'm saying that then when you find this pattern, it's difficult for you to ignore it. Just after going after Cecilia Dapa, you have the special prosecutor now mounting the platform, the media platform, to tell us of the difficulties and the frustrations.
So the question, back to the question. So has the office lived up to expectation? We're expending taxpayers' money on it. If not, what do we do? Should we scrap this?
So what I'm saying is that
say adios to this
whose expectation? That's
enterprise.
Whose expectation was are we using to judge? I believe that the expectation of those who promoted the setting up of this office was that the office would be used, one, to tick a box, like you said, to create the appearance of a commitment to the fight against corruption, and two, to go after political opponents. And so if you are using that yardstick, you will say it has not lived up to expectation. And perhaps that is why it is getting frustrated.
But in terms of
that's why the occupants of that
political
office,
opponents, Martin Amidu didn't do that, unless you have proof to that.
Particular one.
This current one is not doing that.
Listen to me well.
No, I'm just saying, you are saying it was one of the metrics, and I'm saying that at least singling out that metric.
You don't get me. You don't get me. You don't get that's not what I mean. What I'm saying is that if you are using what I believe was the expectation of those who set up this.
Okay, so they had wanted the
president. Yes, I'm saying that based on things that have happened, I'm beginning to think that it was set up, one, to tick a box that we are committed to fight against corruption, and two, to use it to prosecute political opponents. And because that hasn't happened, the occupants of that office are complaining of frustrations. And by that extension,
so
I can say that it has not lived up to the expectation of the promoters of that office. It hasn't.
All right.
Now, on the other hand, I think that the office has been set up, and it can still be useful if we realign, the mindset and the thinking of those in government to understand that this office is to serve us all and to ensure that corruption is a high-risk enterprise, and it should not, choose between political parties, political party affiliations or religious affiliations when it comes to applying the law against people who fall foul of it. With that mindset, I think that the office can still live up to the expectations that we all have of it.
All right. Let me, interesting message coming through. Ando Stephen, on the back of what we had discussed earlier. Even if I had my MP's number, I had called him for several times, but he said nothing to me till I lost my admission. But I've applied to 2 schools and I've gained an admission for 1, but 1 is yet to come. Does the University of Health and Allied Sciences, I am pleading with you, Daddy, to help me. I just found it interesting. And then someone responds, pleading for what? So, yes, a real situation. I mean, I want to believe it is true, but on the other hand, is it the MP who has to foot the bill? You see, these are the situations.
To what directly?
Yeah, sort of, like, in a way.
I'm just asking if it's to any of. I say he's been calling. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, and I'm not sure because he's not mentioned which one. Okay. And even if he mentioned, I wouldn't state. I would probably tell you after the show. But anyway, let's move this conversation.
Well, but you have no idea. I mean, I say that members of parliament are like ATM machines, and they are SOS service providers.
You have no idea. Even
that's the mindset
for those of us who are not in politics.
Exactly, in public life.
Who sit here.
Yep.
It would shock you.
The demands and the
number of people every week who feel he's in a nice suit, he's sitting here, with no idea of my personal circumstances. And I'm telling you, someone reaches out to you and sends you a message that, Charlie, my 2 kids and my wife, one of them is sick. We've not eaten. Can you even send us something for and one more? I'm telling you, this is a real life situation.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's
we get that.
And Charlie, they have no idea, but this country, anyway. Let's get into the conversation on the anti-gay bill. The name is long, so we all stick to anti-gay
even though it's not an
bill.
Anti-gay bill.
No, that's even though it is not. Yeah. But what is the appropriate punishment for LGBTQ sex, so to speak? That got both of your sides in quite some engagements yesterday. Sometimes we watch you from this end and we have a good laugh because some of your antics in Parliament. But anyway, what do you make of the situation? Ursula Owusu-Ekufo also took the floor and said a number of things. And indeed, there are some things we have to be careful about. There are heterosexual partners who may be using sex toys and all of that. And this is a very adult conversation. who may be doing certain things in the heterosexual context. When you read our constitution on, and even the criminal code on unnatural carnal knowledge and the rest, I mean, where do you sit on this, and how far is too far, Collins?
Well, myself, I enjoyed the debate yesterday. I was seated at the back. I had a committee meeting, and so I was just shuffling in and out. And I enjoyed the debate, especially the point that Madam Esla made. Got me thinking. Do you also punish or criminalize two straight adults, I mean, man and a wife, straight, using sex toys to enhance their sexual life, pleasure? Do you criminalize that also? And I mean, and that is the beauty of Parliament when it gets to consideration stages, and then everybody brings his or her views and all that. So I enjoyed it. I'm sure as we move on, by the time we are done with this particular bill, I'm sure we are going to fine-tune it to the extent where Ghanaians and both sides of the political divide will have a very smooth and very good act that will speak to the reasons why we want to do this. First of all, I'm for the bill. I don't have any problem with that. I generally am for the bill. Of course, I'm enjoying what is going on, bits and pieces, and fine-tuning here and there. On the punishment aspect, I think, in all honesty, I think it should be more reformative. The punishment should be more reformative, rather than too many custodial sentences, you know. I think
already our prison system is a mess.
Yeah, so I think it should be more reformative.
Have you read the Bishops' Conference, what it has said? It talks about the fact that, yes, this biblically is sinful, but the people themselves ought to be treated with a certain dignity and all of that, while we recognize that the act, when conducted, is sinful, but the people themselves. And that has always been my approach, I know people who may express certain sentiments. The fact that I do doesn't mean I'll victimize them or denigrate them in any way, because they are human. And there's also the saying that the saint was once a sinner. And in fact, every saint has a past, every sinner has a future. You get it. Even if you want to look at it in that very context, you get it. But then the other hand of what we represent culturally, morally, is also on the line. How do we find
so, as I said, I'll tilt to a more reformative punishment. When they are caught, as it were, I mean, the process should be how to sensitize them and encourage them, let them know the medical implications of what they are doing and all that, and try to...
And those are real points, medical implications,
yes.
even on our health system.
Yes, and try to reform their thinking and to bring them back into our culturally accepted norms, rather than, I mean, if you take a gay person to prison for 2-3 years without actually changing the mindset, what happens in prison may be worse.
Yeah, true. Because we know some of them actually pick up those habits from prison.
Maybe worse. So if the whole punishment is to just catch the person, drop you in the prison for 2-3 years, and think that the person will come out after 4 years and be reformed, you may be joking.
So reform, rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation.
Do you have any concept of how we can go about it?
There are a lot of, I've seen a lot of reform centers around. Last I was watching a documentary where supposedly mad person was taken to a reform center, and the person has come out very nicely after 6 to 8 months. So I think the punishment, as we draft this particular bill into an act, we should try to have the punishment to be more reformative rather than the custodial sentence. And even if you have a custodial sentence, the question is, do you have good facilities within our prison services that will be tailored at reforming the person while the person is in custodial sentence? These are the things maybe we should be discussing.
So you think it's a good bill?
It's a good bill. I don't have a problem.
But in terms of the custodial sentence, we should take a second look at that.
We should protect our culture. Culture is a very, very important thing. This is who we are. I mean, I'm married. I have kids. When I get home and I see my kids, I am excited about it, and that is the nature, that's the natural thing. I mean, a man, a woman come together, give birth, that is the natural thing, But of course, we all talk about human rights. I have my right to do this, I have my right. Yes, you all have our rights, but those rights should be situated within a cultural context. You get a point I'm making. Just as you go elsewhere, and polygamy is unlawful.
Yeah.
In their cultural sense, they believe that a man should be married to just one woman. They are okay with it.
Yeah.
But I can't see why you want to dictate to us how we also groom or manage our cultural setting.
Recently, we heard the American ambassador suggest
that is where I have an issue.
Getting business to Ghana would be a problem because of our stance. But we've seen what has happened to Uganda. I mean, these are things that we must take into proper perspective. And I feel sometimes it is because we've also not managed our resources ourselves economically well, because people always point to the fact that why do they not go to the Saudi Arabias and others and go and paint this picture? And they never bring those issues up. When the recent World Cup was held there were laws about drinking and all of that. They had to abide by them. I mean, there was a bit of a bend. There were specific places people could go to and get alcohol. But even the English fans, who are known for, they had to play,
of course,
by the rules. You get it. So in a way, to some extent, it is about. But you look at the Ugandan case and the fact that while there may be some excesses in there, if you look at some aspects of it, there may be some palpable excesses. But where the World Bank is saying, okay, we are not disbursing any further funds to you on this trajectory because of that. When you say on your website, your claim is that you accept all manner of whatever, then it tells you that there is more equality than other equality.
Yeah, but that is where I have a challenge with our
Bretton Woods institutions and others.
Development partners. I mean, you are in the UK. We all travel to the UK. Suhini is a Muslim. Under his cultural belief, he can get married to
up to four.
Up to four.
Right.
Suhini wants to travel to the UK with his family. Would they allow Suhini to go with his 2 wives to the UK when they also believe that you can't do polygamy? If you are not going to allow Suhini to come to, and this is just a hypothetical case, to come to the UK for holidays with his 2 wives, but you feel very strongly that Suhini should allow you to bring in 2 of your men who are gay into Ghana, that is a problem.
Interesting points you are making.
So I believe that they should just respect our culture. Our culture is that, yes, this is what we want. We are not saying that when you are gay, we are going to put you in jail. Our point is that we do not appreciate that 2 gentlemen having sex. We don't appreciate that. And that per our rules, if you do that, you are going against our culture. We don't intend to criminalize you, but we have a way of reforming you and making you understand that this is where we are and this is what we believe in.
In the meantime, there's a certain Angel Maxine, who used to be Maxwell something, someone I've interviewed before, transgender, and she is saying, so I'm using her, she is saying...
She identifies as she.
Yes. And she is saying that she's going to expose some of you members of parliament who are dabbling in all of this, yet you are hiding behind this bill and all of that. Are you quaking in your boots already?
They're waiting for it.
You know, first of all, you know, the reference you made to what the U.S. ambassador said should be considered very offensive. And at the same time, it should be seen as a challenge to us Africans. And I like the point that you made about how they tolerate other nations when they are asked to comport themselves in a certain way to show respect to their way of life, like the Qatarians, Qatar, the Arabians and others. They don't tell them what they tell us. And that is why we must find what they tell us offensive. But at the same time, we must find it a challenge so that we can also build our economies and our countries to a point where we'll be deserving of their respect. Same respect that they accord to this Gulf.
And if I may just chip in this, sometimes they will make an exception, but then again, they stick to what they believe. You know, in the Cristiano Ronaldo case, he's not married. The girl is technically his girlfriend. They had to make special concessions for him to be able to be in Saudi Arabia, and it's a special dispensation just for him because he's not married to the woman.
Yeah. So and you see, I have said that Ghanaians are very tolerant people. Over the years, we have lived with the Kojo, what do we call them?
BCS.
Kojo BCS. We have lived with the Pado, I mean, in Dagbani, that's how they were referred to, without any problems. We know people in our communities who have the tendency to be gay. We've lived with it all these years, but we have always lived with it as a deviation and not as a normal way of life.
Okay.
And so when people with their bloated egos come to us and want to insist that we regularize it and accept it as a normal way of life, then, in my view, they actually put the Kojo BCS in danger, because then they begin to aggravate the opposition to that way of life, a life that we have always lived with and accepted. And look, let us be clear on one thing. There is no sexual orientation that has not been legislated on. Some people say, why do you have to legislate on people's sexual preferences? Look, if you look at the criminal code, section 29, clearly, even heterosexual sex is legislated on. You have a number of sexual offenses, like rape, like defilement, like incest. Imagine, when incest.
Yeah.
Incest.
I think even bestiality.
Yes.
Everything is
incest. Incest is actually sexual intercourse between people with the same blood relation. It doesn't matter if they are
specifies
adults. Wait, the point I'm making is that it doesn't matter if they are adults. It doesn't matter if it is by their consent. We have still legislated it to be a crime that can take people to prison between 5 years to 25 years. That's heterosexual sex. We have legislated on that. It doesn't matter if they choose to sleep with each other, even though they are related. We have said that is wrong, and it's in the law. So why do we have a problem when it comes to this other sexual, arrangement? And we say that we want to legislate how that also operates. Why should that be a problem? And so if you look at the debate yesterday, I wasn't in Parliament yesterday because I was in the constituency, like I said. But I have spoken to my colleagues. I've spoken to Sam George and others. And the idea behind that provision, in fact, the recommendation was that it should be a maximum of 3 to 5 years. And that's even less than 5 to 25 years as contained in incest.
Right.
Are you getting it? But the committee thought that it should be a maximum of 3 years, but they did not provide a minimum ceiling.
Do you agree that there should be some tweaking to ensure that maybe certain things like with the sex toys and all of that, so that people are not unwittingly drawn into the
I'm enjoying the discussion. Yes, I'm enjoying this discussion. And maybe sometimes these are the discussions the public don't follow, and they don't understand that Parliament sometimes, or mostly, come together to pass laws in the interest of this country. I mean, who would have thought that Sam George and the majority leader, Oseche Mensah would have been on the same side on a matter on a matter, yeah. But you see, on the floor, the information I get is that they were arguing in favor of the same point.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the passage of laws in the House, the consideration stage is an interesting stage.
Very interesting.
Because at that point, members can speak more than once, and members can disagree with their own views, party member and all of that. And that is the beauty of legislation in the House.
The conversation is so enjoyable. I can tell from social media and the comments coming through that we could do this for another hour and still go on. But at some point, we must wrap.
I just want to make that point again, that look, this notion that it is wrong for us to be legislating people's sexual preferences must be discarded, because even heterosexual sexual relationship, we have legislated upon.
Points made on.
I mean, and carnal knowledge, incest, defilement, they are all laws that are prosecutable and that can send people to jail for between 5 to 25 years.
I don't know whether this is the same
Why
Jato
should this be
Kalio.
different?
I know, but Baba Abraham Jato Kalio, it's a bit of a lengthy one. I'll try to shorten. It says, this discussion is of high public interest, corrupting, soliciting for corruption, and giving and receiving corrupt items. Honorable Suini has made a fantastic point. The transparency in all we do as a society. But from their interventions, both MPs, they seem to have thrown in the towel. If they are sincere with their calls for sanitizing our social, religious, and political lives, they should show it in Parliament and in their public discourses. One area I believe they should all join hands to push forward is the campaign to have all Ghanaians come into compliance with the Ghana card and identification of individuals. When we are all identifiable in the digital space and our contributions to political, civil, and religious organizations can be easily tracked, then we can win the transparency fight. It goes on and on, but unfortunately,
well, we have not thrown
it's
in the
too
towel.
long for me to read everything.
You know, like I said, we are just being practical.
Right.
It is.
So these are your
what
final
it
comments.
is.
20 seconds. Let's go.
Yes.
20
So,
seconds.
I mean, I don't agree. I agree with the points that he has raised.
Right.
And except that if he thinks that we sound like we have thrown in the towel.
You've not thrown in the towel.
That's not.
Collins, have you thrown in the towel?
Not at all.
For me, have you thrown in the towel?
Not at all. It's just what it is.
Yes.
A practical.
A luta continua against corruption.
All right. Absolutely. I'm a member of the Parliamentarians Against Corruption, APNAC.
Right.
You know, and it is something we will continue to fight to ensure that we.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for
transparency
joining the conversation this
Thank
morning.
you.
And I want to appreciate how you've comported yourselves. I am very grateful that you've been this.
If you are not,
you know, sometimes it gets fiery. He says, "Did you hear him?" He says, "If you are not mischievous."
When I meet you in school, it's Mutala who has been disturbing me.
Anyway, so those who joined us for this belt of the conversation on everything in Parliament and beyond, Al-Hassan Suini is Member of Parliament for Tamale North. Collins Adomako Mensah is Member of Parliament for Ifija Kwabre North. We have some very, very important conversations still coming your way on the AM show. You want to stay for that. We'll be talking about pesticide risk reduction and that campaign. We'll bring you details of that, as we also tell you about a campaign that aims to promote a healthy and nutritious lifestyle through baking with, guess what, soya flour. All those conversations still to come on the AM show. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM show. Have you consumed any baked product in the last 3 days? What do you think of it? And speaking of which, have you contemplated soya ever in your baking? Well, there's a campaign that aims to promote a healthy and nutritious lifestyle through baking with soya flour. And that's why we are getting into the next conversation. Hosting our guests in the studio, Stephen Ni Okaija Lamte. He is project lead, Soya Flour for Bread and More campaign. And then there's also Joshua Sunny Jimfi, head of marketing, Bread Boutique Limited. Both of them join us this morning for a conversation. Stephen, Joshua, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
I'm just looking at soy, whichever way you want to put it, and the magic of it. Before we even get into what you do with the bread and everything, how important is soya, even before we talk about soy flour, in our daily lives as far as health is concerned? Just a few thoughts from you both. I'll start with you, Stephen.
Soybean is more like a super protein-based
superfood, if you like.
And it has the 13 amino acids necessary for human development, and it has proven to be a versatile plant. It can be used for soy milk, it can be used for oil, it can be used for soy flour. And for the purpose of this interview, we are focusing on the soy flour.
Okay. How about you, Josh?
Yes, the magic of soy. Over the years, a lot of people have this myth about soy, that if you eat soy, you have these complications. But study has proven beyond those thoughts that soy is one of the best plant protein.
Okay.
That contains all the necessary protein nutrients that we need in our food. Yes, and it's even helped in fighting a lot of cardiovascular disease. So I think those myths should be
Debunked, eh?
Debunked.
We should throw them somewhere.
Yeah,
you don't need to have any complications before you start eating soy. It's like saying you want to wait to be sick before you start taking some remedies or adopting some methods.
So if you want to get some, you want to start a healthy living, you can start with soy.
Start with soy. I'll come to you, Stephen, on this bit. So as far as this campaign, the Soy Flour for Bread and More campaign, how is it working to increase awareness and consumption of soy flour? As of now, what you are doing, this collaboration, what has it yielded? How have you done it?
This campaign started last year. We got bakers from various sectors of Ghana, and we trained them in Sunyani on how to incorporate soy flour into their baking products. So soy flour can be used for bread, it can be used for cake, it can be used for pastries, any type of baked product you have, you can use soy flour for them. And we, aside the functional benefits, we also taught them the nutritional benefits of including soy flour in their baking products. So last year we trained about 40 bakers. This year we've gone ahead to train about 50 bakers. We've had one-on-one demonstrations with the bakers across various regions in Ghana. And I must say the reception has been great. Usually after every training session, we have a sampling session where we try to introduce the product to, let's say, the residents or the people around the locality. And comment has been marvelous. They all seem to, they all just enjoy the taste. They like how soy bread tastes like.
And I have tasted some, and it is fabulous. I'm not saying that because I was just telling Joshua that I used to patronize the bread boutique around UPSA. Yes, exactly. I would get tuna bread sometimes. And then at a point I came there were two ladies there, and then one of them told me that they had soy bread. I tried it and it was pretty nice. I bought it a few times. But you're speaking then of the Little Cow and the campaign you have had in that regard. Let me come to you, Joshua. I see you want to come in, but let me go to Joshua first. How then, you were one of the outfits that benefited from this baking training with soy. How has it impacted your baking, would you say?
Yes, initially, most of our customers were not really getting the reason why we were trying to incorporate soy into our bread. But after a few sampling and giving the explanation, the need for them to consume soy, they bought into the idea. And as Bread Boutique is celebrating its 10 years, we are 10 years today. And today.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
I see.
It's 10 years and the campaign is still on. And we are going to have some giveaways in the shops when they visit. And they will have the opportunity to, sample our soy bread. Yes. And the response has been very positive.
I see. You want all of us to stay healthy, right?
Definitely.
Okay, so on behalf of my crew, we have officially hijacked this soya bread. And we're going to... That's just on the lighter side. That's just on the lighter side. But then, what would you say has been the reception so far? You say that people, gauging those who are coming in to buy different... I know you have, and I know your place, so I know you have marble, coconut, fruit, all of those things. Yes. Tuna bread. What has been the reaction of the public towards the soya bread in terms of how much people are patronizing it?
Yeah, but when we started newly, they were not really patronizing it. But after a month, when they understood the importance and the nutritional values of soybean, the reception has been good. The patronage has increased, and the demand has also increased.
I see. Yes. Which is a good thing, positive.
Good thing, yes.
Coming back to you, Stephen, what are some of the success stories of the campaign so far that you can share with us? Because it's not only Bread Boutique, you trained a number of them. What have been the success stories?
Before I start that, before I answer that, I just want to touch on the fact that soy flour is not a complete replacement for wheat flour.
Okay.
It just it's a partial replacement.
So it's a bit of a substitute, not a full substitute, but
so
you add on.
For every 100 grams, so it's just like a 3%. You add 3% of your usual 100% of wheat flour. So for every 100, for example, for every 100 grams of wheat flour, you just add 3% or 3 grams of soy flour.
Okay.
And which, aside the nutritional benefits, there are functional benefits. It improves the yield, it improves the texture, and even the look and feel. without necessarily impacting on the taste. Yes. Some of the successes, like I said, we've had positive feedback and reviews from customers that have tried the soy flour, soy-enhanced bread. And we are working towards increasing the reach of the campaign by training more commercial bakers on how to incorporate soy flour in their baking products.
I see. And so you would say that the appreciation, the reactions across the board have been pretty positive.
Exactly.
More and more people are buying into it.
Exactly, like I said, it doesn't necessarily impact on the taste. So regardless of your formula or your recipe, it doesn't necessarily change it. It only adds nutritional value to your big product.
In terms of building healthier habits, what are you hoping this will have by way of impact on Ghanaians generally moving forward in the different communities where you've started this and across the country, as a matter of fact?
I mean, generally, bread has been viewed as a food that doesn't necessarily have any additional value. But with the inclusion of soy flour, now you can say eating bread has nutritional value, and it's good, and it's even diabetic patients can even take soy-enhanced bread in their diet. So generally, we are just encouraging Ghanaians who want to have start their healthy diet to incorporate soy or to eat soy-enhanced products. Yeah.
So if you want to live healthy, one of the best places to start is with soy. And I know even as we are talking about the bread and all of that, there are so many other things you can do with soy. So as I leave you to deliver your final comments, maybe I would come back to you later for you to share some of that. But 10 years, congratulations once more.
Thank you.
Your first decade in the business. Final words, Joshua?
Yes, my final words goes to the general public, and especially bread boutique customers. I want to say a very big thank you to those who have been with us for this past 10 years.
Includes me.
Including you.
Yeah, I've been
one
with
of
you for
best
about 6 or 7 years.
Yes. And to also tell them that we have increased our branches. Yes. Those who have to travel far distances to get to our shops, now the shops are close.
What are the newer branches you
now, Boche, when you get to School Junction, we now have a shop there. Achimota, just adjacent the Kantakas showroom.
Okay.
We have a branch there. La Polyclinic Junction.
Okay.
Yeah, we have one there.
I don't think I've spotted that yet.
Yes, just by the roadside when you get there. Yeah. And then when you go to Bantama, just adjacent Benevi Pharmacy, not far from the Komfanoche Hospital. Okay. Yes, and Anaji Choice Mart. There is another branch there.
Anaji, is that Takrady?
Takrady, okay. Yes. And the old branches that we used to know, Dansoma, that is at Avery Maria. UPSA, we have moved from the former building to just the next compound. We share a building with the Fidelity Bank.
Okay. Oh, I see where you've
Yes,
moved
just the
to
next
now.
compound.
I see.
We are still at the UPSA.
It's been a few months, so
yes,
I guess.
Yes.
So you've moved to where the filling station was,
Yes,
where the
filling
church
station used
is
to
on
be,
the
yes, the Baptist Church. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and congratulations once more on your anniversary. Final words, and you can tell us more about soy as well.
So the campaign is increasing momentum. We are increasing our reach. We are trying to train more commercial bakers so that the general public can have access to soy-enhanced baked products. You can reach us on our social media pages, IG and Facebook on Everything Soy. Or you can
Everything Soy, as one word?
One word.
Okay.
Or you can call us on 054-012-8001 if you're a commercial baker and you are interested in has coming to come and train you on how to incorporate soy in your baking products.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. And on your behalf, we're going to enjoy these loaves of bread. You are invited. Unfortunately, you can't join us. I'm not teasing you. I'm just saying that we're really going to have fun with the bread. Those who joined us, Stephen Nee Okaija Lamte, he is project lead Soy Flour for Bread and More campaign, and Joshua Sunny Jimfi, head of marketing Bread Boutique Limited. Thank you for joining the conversation, but stay with us. There's still more to come on the AM show. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM show. It's now time for us to talk about pesticide risk reduction and that campaign going on. So the foods you consume, do you actually take stock? I mean, you can't look at the food and tell that, oh, there are a lot of pesticides in this food and all of that. But sometimes it's also where you get it. Are you going organic and all of that? All of these are crucial. And that's why there's this campaign, which is why I'm very pleased to have to join us in the studio. Our guests, Solomon Ajimandria, Communications Specialist, CAB International. And there's also Elvis Opoku, Agricultural Officer, PPRSD of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thank you. Pleasure.
All right. I think it's only fitting to start from the standpoint of the pesticide situation and the risk situation in our country. Where are we? And do we have metrics that we're even using to check on these in Ghana? I'll start with you.
Yes, thank you very much, and a very good morning to your cherished viewers. The food safety situation in the country, I wouldn't say it's dire, but it's of a concern to us.
Okay.
At the moment, when it comes to pesticides, I know we'll come to the details, but to start with, what we are experiencing is the fact that because of climate change, the pests that trouble our farmers are also evolving. And for that reason, our farmers are using a lot of these chemicals in order to be able to deal with them. So whilst we are doing that, what happens is that you are trying to solve a problem, but because you are frustrated and desperate to deal with the situation because it's very worrying, your action at times, it's kind of an overkill. And then you end up
in solving one problem, you create other problems.
So now you are protecting your plants, but at the same time you are creating food safety issues. Right. And that is where we are becoming increasingly concerned, and the reason why we want to talk about it, so that it is not that we are not supposed to do this protection, or the farmers should not use this or that, but awareness must be created about how we are doing it in order not to end up poisoning ourselves or finding ourselves in a lot of problems. So it's an increasing phenomenon, and we want to draw attention to it at all costs.
That's interesting. Let me come to you on the same point before we proceed, because you are with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. I'm sure some of these statistics come on your table. What is the situation?
Well, what I would like to say is, looking at the pesticide risk issue in Ghana for now, like my brother said, it's not too worrying, but we wouldn't want it to get to a point where it goes off hand. Yes, so with a little research that has been conducted and the feedback that we are getting, it's like farmers, in the quest of protecting their crops, like my brother said, they end up using more than necessary, which ends up leaving residues in the kind of food that we have on the market. Yes, so research has been carried out by various institutions, and we realize that for some of these produce that we come across, you might find traces of pesticide residues in them, which of course, when we keep on taking them, long term, it is going to affect us.
Carcinogenic stuff and all of that.
Exactly. And we wouldn't want to get to that point where we might have to even spend more on health and other things. And that is why we are starting with the issue now.
And I have seen, for example, I remember there was this bit in our news, a long time ago, many months, it could be last year, where watermelons, for example, you would have the people spraying directly on them, so the farmer doesn't want to run into losses, so they would spray directly on them. They look mature on the outside, but you cut them open and you realize that they are not, but they've sprayed on them, you've bought them, you eat them, you are consuming high levels of certain chemicals that your body does not need, you don't need to ingest, and end result, you could be consuming sickness.
Exactly.
I'm not saying all watermelon, no one should take me for, but we've seen these in the system as well, which is what brings me to my next question then. So why then this pesticide risk reduction campaign? What's the rationale behind it?
Right. So as we have just indicated, it means that we must take the steps now in order to for all stakeholders involved to begin to look at the situation holistically. What should each actor do? It's not always just about the farmers. Yes, they are the focal point, but along the chain, you have different actors who are all responsible for something. So when we come to farmers, yes, we know what to tell the farmers. When we come to traders, because you rightly mentioned that anyone along the chain has a certain interest that they are doing or they are protecting. So the farmer would not want to run into losses. And with a situation where they are looking at traders coming to them and telling them that, yes, we need your produce to be of a certain standard, to be of a certain quality, and then they get to ask our agro input dealers that what can I do to make sure that this tomato or this watermelon is very reddish and looks appealing. Right. Then they begin to advise, okay, when you put this substance on it, it will look like the way you want it to look like. And he wanting to get his profit, he wanting to get everything that he invested into the production, will go in for it without thinking about the public health implications. And at times it's worrying to note that when you ask some of them, they will tell you that we know this is not good, but our hands are tied because we have invested into it. At times they are worried by erratic rainfall, at times these pests and diseases, and for that matter, it means that whatever much they put in, they must try all ways and means to recoup it. And but
that is actually criminal. In other jurisdictions, Europe and other places, you can't do that. And if you're found doing that, it's basically criminal because you're endangering lives.
Exactly.
And you're going to create problems for the health system, like you said.
Exactly. Like, so when you made mention of it being criminal, in fact, it's criminal in Ghana. If we are talking of the pesticide industry, the whole act that is regulating the pesticide industry is the Act 490. That is Environmental Protection Agency Act, Act 490. And it provides safeguards because we know the pesticides are risk substances. Yes, so it provides safeguards for whoever wants to use the pesticide to use it safely. But the problem is with, one, for we, the regulatory agencies, we are understaffed. And if we are talking of farmer extension ratio, it is just like about one extension officer to more than 600 farmers. So we are not able to cover all our farmers.
Very difficult.
Very difficult. The same thing happens to the other regulatory agencies. Then another point is our farmers, most of them are not able to also read. Because when I made mention of the safeguards, the pesticide label, every product that you buy, the pesticide, it has a label. And the label provides all the information that is required for that product to be used safely so that you don't raise any health and other environmental concerns. But because most of our people are not able to read and even understand the label.
I was just about to get to that.
Exactly. They just do anything. On the label, one critical thing that we stress on is a pre-harvest interval. After spraying, how long does it take for you to even harvest?
And some of these people are spraying it and a few days later.
Exactly.
They are putting the products on the market.
It could even be the same morning that the off-taker has come to take the produce away. That is where they apply.
Dangerous.
So, exactly. So when you look at some of the documentary we are showing on this, yes, we went to the field shooting this documentary and they were telling us, we saw it happening right there. And they will tell you that, yes, this is what the market people are telling us, that, yes, you need to do this in order for us to be able to have robust produce that can withstand the rough nature of our terrain before we transport them to the cities. And again, what you say, it's criminal. It's endangering lives, but this is what is happening, and we need to really speak to our farmers and the other actors to do the right thing.
Coming back to you, so who are those behind this initiative? I want you to just elaborate briefly and tell us about the scope, really, of this campaign.
Okay, thank you. So you see my brother with a nice T-shirt, Kabi. Yeah. All right, so Kabi is behind everything that we are doing now. Okay. And in fact, they are not doing in isolation. They are doing in collaboration with the other regulatory agencies. So for myself, I'm from the Plant Protection and Regulatory Services Directorate. We implement Part 2 of the EPA Act because the pesticides are being applied on crops. Our main aim is to protect these plants, and we have to ensure these pesticides are applied safely. Because of the food safety concerns that are also coming in, we also have our brothers from the GSA Ghana Standards Authority, Food and Drugs Authority, Food Research Institute, and EPA, the regulators of these pesticides. Everybody is on board, and together we want to drive the agenda. We want to send the message to all actors in the state, in the chain, for them to know the right thing to do. Because you said it's criminal. Yes, it's criminal. Per the EPA Act, it's criminal. If you offer any produce that has been sprayed with pesticides for sale, it's a criminal offense. And the jail term is 2 years. But we don't want to start arresting farmers. We don't want to start harassing traders and other things. And that is why the campaign is coming. You made mention of the scope. The scope is nationwide. We are not looking at Accra only. We are not looking at Kumasi.
In fact, most of the farms are not here. They are in the rural areas.
Exactly. Exactly. So we are looking at nationwide. And interestingly, Kabi Day started long ago. 2012, they came out with a program that is the Plant-Wise program. And the Plant-Wise program sought to equip our extension officers with the needed knowledge, information to properly diagnose. Because we say that understanding the problem is part of the solution. So if they are able to diagnose the problem properly, then they can recommend the correct product for the management of the issue. So that training has gone on, and it has now evolved from Plant-Wise to Plant-Wise Plus.
Okay.
Realized that they were using the products, but the food safety issues are coming in. So with the Plant-Wise Plus, what we intend doing is to still offer the help to farmers. But this time around, we are focusing on the biorational, the less toxic products. That is what we want to champion, so that the farmers will concentrate on the less toxic ones that are environmentally friendly, that are friendly to human lives and other things, yes, instead of the more synthetic ones that are so serious to the environment and anybody that comes.
So my final questions to you: who are your target audience, and who should be concerned about all of this? I mean, is it just the farmers, for example? Who are those in the value chain? And who should be concerned about this? Because you never know where you are going to consume what, which food, which party, and you go and eat something. And you know, our bodies are interesting. Some people are more sensitive than others. Exactly. Someone may take something and have food poisoning. Another person takes it, doesn't, but you may have complications. So those two questions to both of you, and then we wrap.
Yes, I will just start by sharing a testimony a farmer shared recently when we held a multi-stakeholder forum. He said that he's a vegetable producer. He produces cabbage. Initially, yes, he was using a lot of pesticides. Then one day somebody told him that, you know that these things you're applying on your cabbage, you are doing it here in this town, but it may end up in your brother's home in Accra. He said that is when he began to think.
Yeah, you think, oh, I'm sending it out there.
I'm sending it out.
It has a way of coming back.
It has a way of coming back to you. So it tells you that somewhere along the line, everybody must be concerned. So pesticide risk reduction, we have termed this particular campaign as everybody's business. So we have, you asked about the actors. We are targeting the farmers down there. Next to them, you have the input dealers, because they are next to the farmers and they are the people who the farmers go to first to get information when they are having trouble. They are close, even closer to them than the extension officers. So from the farmers, you are targeting the input dealers who supply them or give them advice on these things. Then we are also targeting the extension and agric officers. You rightly mentioned that the farms are not here in Accra, but the decision makers are here. The regulators are here. So we, along the chain, it means that everybody must be aware of the problem so that we begin to play our roles the way we should play them. So from farmer to input dealer to the regulator to traders who bring the produce from the farms to the bigger market centers, consumption centers, and then even looking at the final consumers, because we also have a role to play. When you rightly said at the beginning of this discussion that when we begin to find the right places to get the right things, when we begin to demand for safer food, then the producers down there will be forced to do the right things by following certain standards. So it is cutting across to target each and every one of these actors: farmers, input suppliers, traders, regulators, and then even the farmer, the final consumer.
Thank you very much. You have the final word.
Yeah, thank you. So what I would like to add is we need all hands on deck, seriously, because I was looking at the word death, D-E-A-T-H, death. So we take the D out, which is the death, dying 6 feet down. You go down the grave. The H is health. In between is E-A-T, eat.
So it's two things. Whatever we are consuming is either we are consuming for health or we are consuming for death. And if all stakeholders do have this at the back of our minds, then we'll be able to push forward for the right things to be done. And I'm happy that the action has started already. And we've started together with FDA tracing back the kind of produce that these aggregators do sell on the market. And all that we are trying to also tell everybody is, see something, when you see something, you say something. Yes, you went to the market, you bought something. Consuming it, at the end of the day, you had complications. Don't leave it there. Report to any regulatory officer, or you can go back to the aggregator to find out where those things were from. And we can track back and see where the issue is.
And it even reminds me to something, maybe not, it's a tangential issue, but for example, when we had, Sudan
Four died.
In your Zumi, you think you are consuming, they've put it in it to make it look red. But chemicals on Kwa, you are killing yourself. And it's carcinogenic as well. So let's all see something, say something. And it's all about the risk reduction when it comes to pesticides as well. I'm so grateful, gentlemen, that you've taken the time to join us. Those who joined us for this conversation, Solomon Ajimandria, Communications Specialist, CAB International, or CAB International, or CABI, like Elvis would put it, and Elvis Opoku, Agricultural Officer, PPRSD, at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. Once more, we're grateful for this campaign and for educating us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for having us.
All right, so we move on to the next one. We'll be right back after the break with more. Welcome back on the AM show. We cap the show off on a medical note. Some medical doctors are on an outreach in Ghana to correct spinal defects. And trust me, those are nothing to play with. Whether it's your disc under pressure or whatever the case may be, I've seen people with those and it can be pretty painful, which is why it's such a relief that we have this initiative in collaboration with the Focus Orthopedic Hospital in Pantang. Now, joining us in the studio, we have Ryan Normando, president of 33 Spine Align, and that's Ryan right here. I like the way you went. And then there's Dr. Rory Goodwin, Duke neurosurgeon. He joins the conversation as well. Gentlemen, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having us.
Great. Why even the need for this? I know that practically every year we have quite a number of you coming from different parts of the world to support, to do this. And now I hear of 33 Spine Align. I was just sharing my own stints with Focus in the past. But why this entire initiative? I'll start with you, Ryan.
Yeah, not a problem. So Rory and I met when he was a resident at Johns Hopkins. And we came up with this idea where we just had a like-mindedness to help those that are in need. We had met Dr. Bawachi, Professor Bawachi, our prof as we call him, and he had built a hospital here locally. Through mutual friends, we started this fundraising initiative where we wanted to bring US-based spine surgeons, neuro and orthopedic trained, to bring our talents and tricks and tips over to Focus to help and help those that are in need.
It's interesting. The last time I was in Lagos, which is just a few months ago, I encountered this person who had actually brought his daughter. He was just returning from Ghana, and he had brought his daughter to Focus, and he had quite a lot of glowing commentary on that medical outfit. And it's partly because of the work that some of you do there. But tell me, this time you're targeting 10 people for surgeries. What exactly is happening in that regard?
So this year we were able to raise quite a bit of money that we're going to be using to sponsor kind of 10 life-changing surgeries. We have a wide range of different individuals from a 1-year-old, I believe, all the way up to some young adults that basically will get their spinal deformities fixed for them. You know, a lot of them have have tremendous pain. Some of them have had difficulty walking. Some have had difficulty breathing. They've had a lot of medical problems, and so these surgeries that we're going to be doing over this 4 or 5 days are hopefully going to change some lives.
Yeah, change lives. That's the most important thing. I know of people, because again I have had some stints in there. I know of people, not personally, but with other people, with pinched nerve, some with scoliosis, other forms. Just educate us. What are some of the conditions of the spine? And I know even sitting posture sometimes can impact it. Just give us a bit of education on that before we proceed.
Sure. So, normally when you think about your spine, you want to think about it as, your head over your shoulders, over your hips, over your knees, over your feet, and kind of your ability. But what happens is that sometimes developmental deformities can occur, and when they do, patients can lose. They can either, bend forward or bend backwards, and unfortunately, if we were in the States, this is something that would probably be caught very early on. And so I think what happens is that once that process starts, it just continues and continues to progress. And so you can have different range of things. Some are caused by genetic disorders. Some are caused by just, happenstance. A lot of times, for these patients, when they get kyphoscoliosis, or sometimes they'll have neurofibromatosis or some of the other kind of ailments, it can result in severe deformities where, it can impact their rib cage, impact their ability to breathe, impact their ability to walk upright, to look forward. If you really want to think of it at its core nature, usually everyone is trying to always look forward.
Yeah.
And if you can't look forward, you're going to compensate to do that. And so when you have a scoliosis, when your body bends one way or it bends another one, you end up doing all of these compensatory mechanisms which result in increased energy for you to work, to walk, to do all of those different things. So I think all of those kind of contribute to the pain and the pinched nerves and everything else that you see overall.
It's also important to recognize the mental aspect of it too. We like to specialize in young kids, young adults, if we will, anywhere from 1.5 to about 25, 27. Because sometimes we sponsor surgeries when they're children, right, and then they age out, right? But we don't want to forget about them, and so their life ideally is long, and the mental aspect of it to restore confidence, not only along with their standing straight and stuff like that, they'd be able to carry themselves through their life.
Yeah. And the confidence bit is crucial. And I've met some of these, brothers and sisters, and sometimes they, like you said, they can't even look up properly, and it's a struggle to do that. No one wants to go through that. But speaking of which, in June you had some of these surgeries, 2 of them, and in December you're looking forward to about 10 of these surgeries that you're going to conduct. But there's a crucial factor in there. While you're offering your services and all of that, this comes at a cost.
Yes.
Right? We're looking at around $15,000?
Yeah, that's about the average.
And I know some people, because I've been able to get someone in there who has, through sponsorship, got this done. But what does it take to be able to raise these funds? How difficult or easy is it?
I'm going to let the money man.
Ryan, you're the money man.
It's when we started this partnership, not only with Focus, but between Rory and myself, I equate it to climbing Everest. Right, raising the money is my job, but he has to carry all the heavy lifting. So I usually fly in a helicopter and help him plant the flag. But honestly, it's because of the messaging and the communication, how authentic it is. The fundraising aspect of it has been difficult, but not as hard as you would think, because there are folks back where we come from that are willing to help. They're willing to donate. We do golf tournaments, we do engagements, we do speaking opportunities and stuff like that to help progress that narrative. And help keep communication high and the quality of that communication very high. So we raise anywhere from $100,000 to $130,000 a year right now. Ideally, we're going to increase that allotment over time. But it's been really well received back home. And there's a lot of people out there right now that I'd like to thank and say, appreciate you, and let's keep on driving.
Please go ahead. Go ahead. Even if you want to mention names and outfits, go ahead.
Yeah,
we'll celebrate them.
Well, I was lucky enough to have some really good friends that supported me through this. And when I was talking about the passion, and this is what we do back in the States on different ends of the spectrum. But I was in the industry of supporting and supplying hardware for the surgeons themselves back home. And so through that engagement, we've been able to partner with Ryan Redman, who's based out of California. He owns a distributorship there. He's here with us this year. Chasen Construction and Companies has been paramount in it. It's just Radcliffe Jewelers. I mean, there's a lot of folks that we're representing out here, and unfortunately or fortunately, I'm the mouthpiece that's able to describe this. But I really appreciate everyone back home, and we're doing some really great work here.
Right. So I know you're volunteering. You're offering your services for free, and it's the season of giving. So you're offering your talents, your skills, your time to be here, your resources basically to be here. But like I said, what are you looking forward to in 2024, for example, next year? You did 2, you're doing 10. What are you looking forward to next year? And are there any people you'd like to reach out to in terms of funding and all of that? We have about a minute and a half, so let's maximize it.
Fair
Starting
enough.
with you, Ryan.
Yeah, so in regards to that, we have 2 mission trips that we're going to commit to every year. Through those fund gauging opportunities, we're guaranteed to do 2. We have a handful of things geared towards the end of April. We're going to come back in June, and we're going to come back in December. Right now, we've helped 29 total patients. We're ideally going to help expand the June mission trip to another 3 to 5. So ideally, we'll do 15 to 17. But due to the time aspects of it, it's hard to be able to accomplish all of our goals in a week. Yeah. So ideally, we'll move to more mission trips over time.
And then I think the other part of it is the educational piece, which is basically the exchange of information that will happen between kind of some of the U.S.-based institutions and then Focus Hospital. Right. We have...
is there a transfer of skills as well?
On both parts, actually.
Okay.
A lot of it is learning different techniques, different ways. You know, there's some of the most severe diseases that you see, you know, here kind of on the continent. And I think that our ability to kind of use our resources to help them, but then also them to teach us kind of how they perform some of these surgeries from theirs, and then have that kind of interplay is crucial. I think in the future we want to try to bring more trainees and residents and actually increase overall awareness, you know, of the of what's going on at the hospital.
That'll also increase the frequency of the trips.
Exactly.
Right.
Which is helpful.
Yeah.
Well, what can we say? In the spirit of Christmas, we're grateful to you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming as well. Keep up the good work. And we may not have the full picture, but those who go through these surgeries, they feel it better, what the impact is of these surgeries. So kudos to you guys, and thank you for what you do for God and country, humanity, basically. So those who joined us for the conversation, Ryan Normando, president of 33 Spine Align, together with Dr. Rory Goodwin-Duke, a neurosurgeon, of course, in collaboration with Focus, and that is what they're offering. Well, in the spirit of Christmas, Christmas is here, and it's early. Kindness is the way to go. My name is Benjamin Akako. This has been the AM Show. Thank you for watching. We'll do this again, if God gives us life, same time tomorrow. But up next, we have Joy News Desk. I've heard her voice somewhere around here. You'll be seeing her shortly in the studio. Do stay.